Yeah, we living in a world where the rules don't apply. They say we gotta follow, but we ready to fly. The system got us boxed in, trying to keep us small. But we rise like the phoenix, we ain't scared to brawl. They feeding us lies, but we see through the smoke. We're the voice of the people, we're ready to provoke. They want us to divide, but we're stronger as one. Breaking chains, taking names, yeah, we getting it done. It's us versus the system, we're breaking the mold. Fist in the air, yeah, we taking control. No more silence, no more fear. Together we rise, let them know we're here. Riders ignite. In the world of division, they showed us how to share, but the weight of our sorrows, they never taught us to bear. We split our joys and laughter, but the pain remained untold. A burden we carry alone, a story left untold. They taught us to split everything, but not the heavy pain. He lingers in the shadows, a darkness we can't explain. We're left with shattered pieces, trying to mend what's lost. They taught us how to split everything, but not the heavy cost. We learned to divide our dreams and multiply our fears. But the ache in our hearts only grew in passing years. They gave us all the answers, except how to heal. The scars that run so deep, wounds that time can't seal. Yeah, they taught us how to share, but only the good. Smiles and laughter like we understood. But deep down inside, there's a storm we hide. Pain in our hearts, we're just trying to ride. Put on a mask, yeah, we play the part, but nobody sees the cracks in the hearts. We share our dreams, the highs and the lows, but when it comes to hurt, we just close the doors. We share the fun times, deflect the pain, laughing in the sunshine, dancing in the rain. But the shadows linger, they creep and they crawl, breaking us down, but we don't share at all. We got hate in our hearts, but we get concealed. Taught to share the joy, but wounds, they stay unhealed. They said love was easy to divide, but the heartache never subsides. We tried to split everything into two, but the pain lingers strong and true. Shared our dreams, divided our fears, but the sorrow remained through the years. No matter how we tried to let go, the weight of our suffering continued to grow. Now we're apart trying to heal, but some wounds are too deep to conceal. They said splitting up will set us free, yet the pain lingers in you and me. In a world where rules are set in stone, the system's grip tightens, we're not alone. Bound by chains of injustice greed. Against the odds, we fight to be free. Mighty forces try to keep us down, but our spirits rise, refusing to drown. Defying norms, breaking through the mold. In this battle of wills, our story is told. As the clash continues day by day, we stand united, come what may. For in this world where rules don't apply, our strength and unity will never die. They tried to silence our dreams, but we're loud and clear. With every step forward, conquering fear. They can't hold us back. We're the fire and the flame in this battle for freedom. We're all in the game. They say it's just a game, but we're playing for keeps. With the strength of the many, we're sharing their leaps. No more puppets on strings, we're cutting the ties. With our eyes on the prize, we're reaching for the skies. So let's stand together, let's break down the walls. In this fight for our future, we'll answer the calls. From the ashes, we'll rise like a storm. Riders ignite, it's us versus the system, and we're ready to fight. They building walls, but we're digging tunnels. With every step we take, we're shaking the bundles. From the streets to the courts, we're raising our voice. In a world full of noise, we're making the choice. They want to keep us blind, but we see the light. Knowledge is power, and we're ready to fight. From the corners of the city to the halls of the state, where the heartbeat of the struggle can't afford to wait. It's us versus the system, together we rise. Let them know we're here. Riders ignite. So remember this moment, remember this space, remember this sound. We're the voice of the future, and we won't back down. In the face of oppression, we'll stand up tall. It's us versus the system, and united.
Hey, what up, everybody? I hope all of y'all is having a blessed and humble morning. Continue to have a blessed and humble afternoon. This y'all shorty Rachel. And listen, I want to welcome all of y'all to the Writer for Life brings you the Let's Talk About It podcast. All right. Today we're gonna be talking about red flags were flying. Nobody looked, the devil had help. All right. 2 kids unalived, 2 injured. It's unfortunate, right? I can never, understand how a parent, right, can harm, you know, the hairs off the head of an angel.
Right now, a mom is held in jail with a $14 million bond, charged with murder after the Brazoria County Sheriff's Office says she shot her 4 children.
Yeah, such a tragedy. 2 did not survive. The other 2 are now recovering in a hospital. Our Ugochi Aloka joining us live now with what neighbors are saying. And Ugochi, where did this family live?
Alone and Jacob, jail records show that 31-year-old Oninda Romelos lived in a home in Porter that is about an hour away north of Angleton, where her kids were found shot in a car. Now, the Brazoria County Sheriff's Office says that they initially found out about the shooting through a 911 call. Take a listen to when deputies were first dispatched to the scene.
We need multiple ambulances.
KHO11 got this exclusive video Saturday evening of investigators going in and out of Romelos' home. They were there for around 12 hours, appearing to collect evidence. They also towed away a car from the driveway. Neighbors tell us Romelos lived only at this house for about a few months. Many had not interacted with her at all. Residents are feeling uneasy after learning Romelos is accused of shooting her 4 children and killing 2 of them.
Damn.
One neighbor who says they often saw Romelos' children calls this shooting a terrible tragedy.
This is
Seeing
wild.
them Friday, and they were happy and on their way, telling us hi and bye, and figuring I would see them again Monday afternoon. Heartbreaking to think that anything could be so bad that you have to take your children's life. I don't understand.
It is.
Very devastating there. And we're told the 2 other children recovering in the hospital have since been interviewed by deputies, and they say they are cooperating. Coming up in the next hour on KHO11 Plus at 7 a.m., hear more from that neighbor, as well as where the investigation stands now. Reporting live this morning, Ugochi Iloka, KHOU 11 News.
Listen, this situation right here is really wild. All right, like it's hard to talk about situations like this, but hey, let's do it. All right, like you ever notice how the media loves to say "quiet mother"? Like it, like that's a personality trait. Like silence is proof. How can I say it, of sainthood? All right, Olina Romelos, right, Romelos, however you say her name, a Texas mom, accused, all right, of shooting her 4 children, 4 babies, gone. All right, and the neighbors say she was quiet. That's the headline. All right, that's the angle. Nah, let's talk about it. Let's talk about what's really loud here. All right. The silence around mental health, the silence around isolation. All right. And it's crazy because we don't talk about mental health a lot. All right. So the silence around systems that fail mothers until they snap. All right. Like we don't excuse it. We don't soften it. We comfort it. All right. A lot of people, when I say we, I'm just speaking in general. Okay. I'm just trying to get, what I'm trying to say out there. So hopefully, and I know it's going to happen, but hopefully people don't, get in their emotions and they, in they bag because, certain words that be said. Like, look, listen, just pay attention, listen carefully. All right. Because we're not here to bash. But it's true. All right, when situations like this happen, we shouldn't be excusing it. We shouldn't be softening it. All right, we shouldn't be comforting it because this isn't just a crime story. All right, this is a mirror. And if you're uncomfortable, good man, you should be. What causes a mother, all right, to unalive her kids? Let's start with untreated trauma, generational silence in a society that only checks in when it's too late. Let's talk about how we glorify motherhood but ignore the mental toll. All right. Let's talk about how we roast women for being too emotional but never ask what happens when they're not allowed to feel at all. All right. Like this isn't just about Oninda. All right. It's about every woman who's drowning in silence, every child who deserves safety, and every system that watched it happen. All right. You want awareness? Here it is, loud, uncut, and unforgiving. Because if we don't roast the root, all right, we're, how can I say, decorating the grave. Like, it's unfortunate that we got mothers like this, right? I've been, doing a little research since yesterday and today, all right? Shout out to the people that sent me these videos, all right? I had a few send me videos last week. All right, this happened. I don't think, was it last week? It's been a few days, all right? So I'm not going to sit here and say last week. I'm going to say in between the last, 4 or 5 days. All right, so it hasn't even been a whole week. All right. But we got a mother here, right? They had 4 children. We don't know if she has mental health. It doesn't show that she had any type of mental health in the past prior, all right, to this situation. Now, there are plenty of social media videos of this lady surfacing. I do have a content creator. We get to it, all right. She had, did her little research, had time to do it, put everything together, all right. But before I show y'all the next news clip, all right, I just want to put this out there, all right. Like mental health, like there's something that I want to call, all right, and I know a lot of people call it, right, it, the unseen crisis, all right. Oninda Romolas, all right, accused of shooting her 4 children, shows signs of severe psychological distress. All right, court documents reveal she spoke of calling, all right, the devil, and said, instead of them doing it to me, I'm going to do it to them. These statements suggest possible psychosis, all right, paranoia, and trauma. And I'm not a therapist, I'm not a counselor, all right. I'm not a psychologist, but I do enough research, enough reading, all right. Yet, there's no public records of her receiving mental health treatment at all. And there's a point in time that a lot of us need it, especially when we have kids, because a lot of mothers, all right, especially single mothers, and I want to say fathers, but we're talking about the mothers now, because y'all know that I talk about both, all right, the mental health of the men and the mental health of the women. But right now, let's focus on the women, all right. Let's focus on the women because it's crazy. Like I just said, research shows that untreated maternal mental health conditions like postpartum psychosis, depression, and anxiety can lead to tragic outcomes. All right, including the word is called infanticide. I think it's called that. I can't pronounce the word right. All right, but according to records, there's no paperwork saying, no records, no documentation saying that she has received any type of mental health throughout her life. All right. And what's crazy is that Black and Latina mothers are 80% more likely to experience postpartum depression in rural areas. All right. Yet 60% receive no treatment due to lack of access. All right. Stigma and systemic barriers. So, with that being said, let's talk about media framing, all right? The quiet mother myth that you hear so much about out here. All right, headlines call her a quiet Texas mother, all right? Same way they do over here when a mother commits a crime in Philadelphia. The quiet Philly mother, whether it's from North Philadelphia, South Philadelphia, West Philadelphia, all right? This quiet mother, nobody ever noticed. I'm sitting here like, damn. Like, she was that quiet. Nobody even peeped her coming out the door to go to the store. Bullshit. But anyways, right? Headlines call her a quiet Texas mother, and that's the go-to framing. Quiet, polite, tragic. It's a deflecting tactic, all right? Like, the media rarely asks what systems failed her, what support did she lack. Instead, they paint her as an, how can I say, anomaly. All right, not a symptom of a larger crisis in mental, how can I say, in maternal, all right, maternal, let me add that one right there, maternal mental health and social isolation. All right, with that being said, let's talk about the systemic neglect, the real killer. Romulus had prior contact with Child Protective Services, but no detail have been released. Why? She was previously arrested for DUI and possession in Georgia, a red flag for substance use and mental health. And you know what's crazy? If she's not originally for Texas, why they call her? Well, I guess because she was living in Texas. All right, so I guess that's why they say a Texas mother, but she's not from there. I guess she moved to Texas. But anyways, all right. She had, DUI and possession, in Georgia, a red flag for substance use and mental instability. All right. Yet she was living alone with 4 children with no known support system, no intervention, and no mental health care. The system didn't fail once, it failed repeatedly. All right. And strategically. All right. My bad if I pronounce it that word. Up. All right. But hey, listen, sometimes I get tongue twisted. I don't know why I get tongue twisted with certain words, but it happens. All right. They call her quiet. I call that cold. For we weren't paying attention. 4 kids shot, 2 dead, and the system want to act surprised. Nah, man, let's talk about what happens when silence is louder than support. All right. Most people don't want to talk about that.
Tonight, we're uncovering disturbing new details about a mother accused of shooting her 4 children, killing 2 of them. This is 31-year-old Oninda Romulus, seen here in a 2022 mugshot from Georgia when she was arrested on drug charges. We're also learning Child Protective Services had previously been called to her home, but details of that case remain unclear.
Troy Class has been following all of this since the weekend, and he spoke with the suspect's father earlier today. He's in Angleton for us tonight. Troy?
We've been working to learn more about Romulus, who is in jail, and any motive for the shooting. Meanwhile, in newly obtained court documents, we're learning about what Romulus told investigators after she was arrested, but a motive for the shooting is still unclear.
New details are beginning to emerge after 4 children were found shot in a car at an Angleton gas station. A 13-year-old boy and 3-year-old girl died. An 8-year-old boy and 9-year-old girl still recovering.
Brazoria County deputies responded to an unthinkable, unimaginable tragedy.
The kid's mom, 31-year-old Oninda Romulus, is now in custody, charged with murder, and according to charging documents, gave disturbing statements to the Brazoria County Sheriff's Office investigators who spoke with her after the shooting. Court documents obtained by KHOU 11 share Romulus told investigators her children were with the devil.
That is
According
crazy.
to the affidavit, law enforcement says surveillance video shows Romulus drove to this gas station off Highway.
Yo, mental health is really serious. Like, what would make this lady, I don't know, like, the whole thing was the devil. Like, she was thinking that her kids were, like, I'm telling you, like, I don't know if she suffered from schizophrenia, but something was deeply wrong, all right? Deeply rooted inside of her that made her, I don't know if she was having illusions, all right? But something wasn't right. And you're telling me that nobody ever noticed it, but she wasn't originally from Texas, all right? I don't know if could she be originally from Texas and she was from Texas to Georgia or from Georgia to Texas? I'm not sure. All right. But one thing I could sit here and say is that it looks like her neighbors didn't really know her, or she wasn't outside as much.
288 in Angleton, where she called 911. When asked during her interview why she called authorities, Romulus told investigators, quote, "Instead of them doing it to me, I'm going to do it to them," and continued saying, "Kill them all."
Wow.
Romulus lived at this home in Porter for just a few months with her 4 children, identified in court documents as Ocario Covington, Amora Chappelle, Kylie Romulus, and Traviel Downer. Neighbors telling our
Oh, she has different names. I forgot to mention that when I was speaking. All right. According to certain reports, right, they found a whole bunch of different identities, different identifications. All right, and in her place. So it seems like she was doing some type of illegal side hustle. All right, if y'all catch the drift. All right.
Orco Manna, the children were happy and they saw them just a few days ago.
He always waves and we tell him hi, and they come back by, and I have a little Yorkie, and sometimes she'll stop and ask if she can pet the puppy. Just seeing them Friday, and they were happy and on their way, telling us hi and bye, and figuring I would see them again Monday.
The home is in the New Caney ISD. We reached out to the district asking if the kids attend school, and they replied stating while they're deeply saddened, out of respect for the investigation, the district wouldn't provide information about the individuals or their connection to our schools. Meanwhile, today, Romulus's dad told me on the phone from his home in Georgia, he's trying to understand what happened.
Romulus is still being held on a $14 million bond. The surviving children are still recovering in the hospital. Troy Kless, KHOU 11 News.
Such a tragic case with so many questions. Troy Kless with what we...
It is really, a tragic case, a tragic situation. For real. Ah, shit. Blessings. Good morning. Straight Godzilla in the building. Guys, make sure y'all go check out Straight Godzilla. Great conversations, great topics, yo. And listen, he's a roaster, so be careful. Cautious when you walk into the building, all right, to go check out my OG, all right, because he is a roaster. But guys, this is crazy, all right? I left a poll in the chat, all right? I would like for people to, fill it out and stuff like that. Should mental health screenings be mandatory for new mothers? All right. And the options are yes, it's survival, no, and it's invasive. Only if signs show I don't know enough. And I feel as though they should start implementing that, because I do know that, that when, mothers show some type of postpartum depression, some type of depression, all right, they make them do these classes. They tell them to take, some type of therapy or counseling. I don't know if they're getting harder that on that anymore. The last time I had a kid, all right, was almost 9 years ago. All right, my child's about to be 9 in December. Shit. So for me personally, I feel as though yes, it should be mandatory, especially, all right, especially if the mother shows signs, all right, because there's so many mothers out here that are having kids because they want to tie a man up. Reason why I'm saying this is because of certain social media posts that I've seen from this mother. All right, and a lot of the videos, all right, she is bashing the men, talking about she don't need them, this and that. And when women come online and start saying, she don't need a man for this, she don't need a man for that, then why are you chasing him to help you? You see where I'm coming from? Why are you, telling him to do this and do that if you don't need him in the first place? You see where I'm coming from? Listen, respect goes hand in hand. All right. I'm not gonna sit here and bash a woman just to defend a woman. You gonna bash a man just to defend a woman because I'm a woman. I have 2 sons. You see where I'm coming from? And I teach my sons, all right, as the best way that I can, as much as I can, all right, how to treat a woman, all right? Like, I don't want my sons out here thinking that it's okay for women to, do this to them and doing that to them. No, so I want them to treat women, all right, to, in a way so that when, they are with these women, the women can give them back the same type of respect, all right? Like, the respect goes hand in hand, all right. And a lot of females, if you want to be independent, be independent, all right. If you want to be with a man and just, it's a hit it and quit it type thing, do that, all right. If you're not you're not capable of being in a relationship, or don't want to be in a relationship, or don't want to be tied up in that way, be real and keep it real with the man. But some women get obsessed, all right, because they get stigmatized by that man. They can't let go. They can't, listen, I've seen this shit plenty of times. And I can't seem to understand. You see where I'm coming from? If you don't need this man, you don't want this man, instead of bashing him and bringing him down, let him go. If he's with somebody else, let him be happy. You'll be happy with whoever you want to be with. But some women can't do that shit, and they use their kids as tools. I've talked about this plenty of times. And I'm not sure if she's in that category. If she's scoring and she's, aiming at all the men and, boom, and they leave her because they see how she is after a while. You see, because sometimes you can't tell when a woman is toxic in the beginning. All right. The same way you cannot tell that a man is toxic. And this situation is heartbreaking because damn, like you made it to the 4th kid and now you want to unalive your kids because the devil told you so. This could be a case of where this mother was, suffering from mental health, for the longest, and nobody caught these red flags. Why? I don't know. Was she around family? I don't know. All right. But we will find out, all right, throughout these little videos that we're going to be watching today. All right. Let us shorty know what y'all think down below. All right. Let's get the discussion started. All right. What policies need to be changed? All right, so that these kids don't keep going through this, especially when DHS should be involved.
Thank you for staying up late with us. I'm Corley Peel in for Bill Barajas. Brazoria County authorities say 31-year-old Oninda Ramelis shot her 4 children in her white sedan before pulling over to a gas station on Highway 288 in Angleton. 2 of the kids are dead and 2 others are recovering tonight. The grandfather of 2 of the children spoke only to KPRC2 News reporter Jaewon Jung, and she is in Porter, where the family had a home.
Well, it is a quiet scene out here in this Porter community now, but neighbors I spoke to tell me it was a much different scene on Saturday morning, with investigators collecting evidence from this house believed to be where 31-year-old Oninda Ramelis was living with her 4 kids.
She had a beautiful smile like her dad.
James Chappelle lives in Atlanta, Georgia, and tells me 2 of the kids found shot inside a car in Angleton on Saturday are his grandchildren. One of them is 3-year-old Amari Chappelle, who lost her life. What was your reaction when you heard about her death?
I start crying immediately. That's my grandbaby.
Chappelle tells me an 8-year-old boy is also his grandchild. That boy is in the hospital.
This event.
So, see, her family, she had family around. So you telling me that the family didn't notice the red flags? How did she keep this on the low for so long? There were red flags. How did the family and friends miss it? How did DHS miss it?
Has shaken our community.
Brazoria County Sheriff Bo Stallman held a press conference on Sunday afternoon telling reporters the suspect that left 3-year-old Amari and a 13-year-old boy dead, as well as an 8-year-old boy and a 9-year-old girl injured, is the kid's mother, 31-year-old Oninda Romelis. She's now being charged with murder and aggravated assault.
We believe that the evidence shows that this tragedy has occurred inside of the vehicle.
Sheriff Stallman says Romelis called the sheriff's office for help just after 4:30 Saturday morning. Deputies arrived to a Shell gas station on Highway 288 in Angleton, where Romelis had pulled over in her white sedan. If you happen to know exactly the location where the shooting took place?
Again, that is part of the ongoing investigation.
Chappelle tells me he's in shock and Romelis seems like a good mother.
I didn't see anything wrong with her personality. She seemed like a beautiful person.
He says Romelis is from Haiti and lived in Georgia before moving to Texas about 5 months ago. Chappelle is now holding on to memories of a 3-year-old girl gone too soon.
Damn, that shit is wild. See, I knew she wasn't from, like, it was weird. Like, how come people don't know that much about her, but the family does? So she's not originally from here. All right, she came from Haiti. She was in Georgia. Then from Georgia, she went to Texas. So I'm not sure how long she was living. Well, we know in Texas, she was there for a few months. I don't know how long she was in Georgia, how long she was in Haiti. We do know she was born in Haiti. So
Romelis is currently being held in Brazoria County Jail on a $14 million bond. In Porter, Jaewon Jung, KPRC 2 News.
She was once on the reality show.
all right, so I'm gonna pause it right there so I can say what I gotta say. Blue, go over there. This damn dog over here. Like, oh, I hate that noise. Go over there, boy. All right. So we have a case, right, with a mother named Oninda Romelis, right? Texas mother, 4 kids shot, 2 dead, and the quote that made headlines. All right. They were with the devil. That's what she told deputies. But let's talk about it. All right. The real devils, neglect, silence, and a system that watches women unravel and call it quiet. All right. She had a $14 million bond, 2 murder charges, 2 aggravated assault charges, and CPS, they've been in contact. But contact ain't care. Contact ain't intervention. All right. Contact ain't protection. So what did they do? Nothing. And now everybody's acting brand new. Was mental health ever offered? Did family step in? Did neighbors speak up? Or did they just say she was quiet and keep it pushing because quiet ain't safe? Quiet is where trauma festers. All right. Quiet is where psychosis grows. How can I say? Quiet is where psychosis grows teeth. Quiet is where the system hides its failures. All right. You want to know how nobody saw the red flags? Because we don't train people to see them. And I know people's going, some people's going to get, all up in their egos because I said the word, we don't train people to see them. But if you know what I'm trying to say. You know what I mean by that. It's not trying to say, you know what I mean by that. All right. We train them to mind their business. We train them to say, that's just, tired. We train them to ignore the signs until there's blood on the floor and a headline on the screen. All right. This ain't just about Oninda. All right. It's about every woman drowning in silence. It's about every child who deserves better. It's about every system that's, every system that waits for body counts before it gives a damn. All right. So yeah, let's talk about the devil, but let's name the real ones. All right. So she was quiet. That's what they always say. But quiet ain't peace. It's pressure. It's isolation. It's trauma with no outlet. Silence doesn't protect. It hides the storm until, it explodes. Stop mistaking quiet for okay. We glorify moms as superheroes, then leave them to drown. No therapy, no check-ins, just diapers, dishes, and breakdowns. All right. Motherhood isn't treatment. All right. Like it's a trigger if support's missing. Stop how can I say romanticizing how can I say this romanticizing, all right? Survival. Like systemic neglect is the real trigger. All right. She didn't just snap. She was failed by CPS, by healthcare, by community, by the real, the real trigger wasn't a gun. It was every ignored red flag, every missed intervention, all right? Every system that said, not my problem. Red flags are useless if ignored, all right? Mental health spirals, all right? Mental health spirals don't come, how can I say, out of nowhere. They come with signs, but signs don't save lives, all right? If nobody's watching. If you saw something and stayed silent, you weren't a bystander. You were a witness to neglect, all right? Let me put it like this. CPS is supposed to equal protection, right? But right now, right, for the longest, I'm going to say it like this. CPS has equaled minus protection. CPS knew they had contact, but contact ain't care. All right, it ain't safety, it ain't action. If the system checks the box and walks away, it's not protecting, it's enabling tragedy. All right, because if they went there, and I've seen that shit with a lot. You know what's funny as shit? That these social workers want to press parents, right? That are doing exactly what they got to do. Sometimes they have, a little fall down, a little rock where, damn, man, I have to choose food over bills. You see where I'm coming from because of what's going on with the jobs and, but they're doing it and they try to find a support system. And DHS want to bash these people, want to take their kids. While mothers like this are showing signs, right? And neighbors, family, including CPS, ignores it. CPS would come in and believe the sobbing story of this mother that's over here crying compared to the story of a mother that's sitting here standing 10 toes down, all right, on what she's doing when it comes to her kids. I mean, they do it to fathers too. Believe it or not, all right? It's just that right now this is a woman who did this. So, we're talking about the mothers. Mental health isn't optional, all right? It's survival. You don't wait for a heart attack to offer, to offer a cardiologist. So why do we wait for a breakdown to offer therapy? All right. Mental health care isn't a luxury; it's a lifeline, and ignoring it, it is a death sentence. But a lot of people don't want to hear it. All right. Shout out to Osby Crosby. All right. They say that unfortunately, Dems corrupt everything they touch. I can't disagree with him right now with the way things are going. All right, but I feel as though that both parties do it. You see where I'm coming from? Red or blue? We fighting for crumbs. So, I mean, I agree with him just to a certain extent because he's not wrong. Look at everything that's happening. It's just that me personally, I believe it's both. So, Ozzy, shout out for the comment. I appreciate the comment and for spitting some gems, yo. Real shit. I appreciate that comment, yo. I love when people come in here, right, and we can have conversations, all right. And I agree with him, like to a certain extent. I agree. Yes, right. Like I don't know if it's recently that the politics have turned into a whole circus. All right, I'm only 36 years old. All right, and I haven't been into politics, but only for the past I'm gonna say 9 years. Before that, I wasn't into politics like this, all right? But I got into politics because I wanted to make a difference in my community so that I could help my child, right? And not just my child, but their friends, all right? And try to get resources in here for these kids and much more. So, yeah, Shorty got 1 foot in politics, 1 foot in the streets. You see where I'm coming from? And I do not want to become a politician because I feel as though, right, when you don't have them strings attached to you, you can get more resources, you can learn more, you can do more, you can speak a little more. All right. If I become a politician, I'm gonna be censored to everything that I want to put out there and I want to say. All right, because I question everything. I question it. If it doesn't seem right, I question it. If it doesn't feel right, I question it until I get an answer, all right, that feels like, okay, that makes sense. But what I just said might go over a lot of people's heads, all right? But that's how I feel. That's how I think. These are my opinions, my views, my ways of, my way of viewing life and seeing things, all right? Like I've grown up so much and I've seen that the majority of the time, right? We we as people are our own enemies, all right? Like when we need to, take a look in the mirror and ask ourselves, all right, do you like what's being said back from you, from the person staring back in the mirror? Do you like, the person? Do you like the person that is staring back at you? Can you stand the person that's staring back at you? You see where I'm coming from? And if you don't like what that person is saying back and that you can't stand that person who's staying back, if that person staring back at you in that mirror feels like a complete stranger and you don't recognize who that is, then that means it's time. It's time to, start rearranging things in your life. All right? Because we don't got to change who we are, but we got to change certain things that we do in life. All right? Our behavior. All right, we got to stop letting our emotions take over. You see where I'm coming from? I mean, I can go about this in so many ways, but once again, I'm not a therapist. All right, I just want to bring awareness to mental health in situations, like this too. All right, they both go hand in hand, and we don't talk about it as much. All right, we want to talk about. I'm not gonna say me, but I'm saying it. All right, and I'm speaking in general. All right. Let me put it like this. All right, a lot of people want to talk about baddies. They want to talk about, making up fake drama, stirring up fake beef to earn some money. All right, and what's crazy is I've seen people out here that are positive say fuck all that beef shit, all that drama. I want to get my community together. You see where I'm coming from? Like, if I want to get on social media, I want it to be entertainment. I want to laugh. You see where I'm coming from? I don't want to sit here and argue and get pissed off. But hey, that's what's happening nowadays. All right. Unfortunately, that's what's happening. And we don't notice the things that are happening in our communities when it comes to situations like this, whether it's a woman or whether it's a man. All right. And as a mother of both genders, I speak on both. I'm not just going to speak on a woman because I have a daughter and I'm a woman myself. No, we got boys, all right? And a lot of mothers out there got boys too. So it is time to start bringing awareness to both, not just one. Like this mother right here had 4 kids, all right? And we know damn well that there's been red flags, all right, for a while. But did people speak up? No, because I don't know if it's out of fear or what it is, all right? That people don't seem to, say certain things when they have to say it. They say it when they don't have to say it. You got people out here worrying about other kids, other parents' kids, right? Trying to, tell these parents what to do and how to raise their kids when their kids are still out here wilding. Let's make that one make sense. You see my whole point right there? Like that makes complete sense. How you trying to tell someone else how to raise their kids, right? But yet your kids are out here wilding, making a muck. You see, people don't seem to realize that as parents, we are a reflection of these kids, and these kids are a reflection of us. All right. As these kids grow out through the years, all right, their behavior, how they're behaving shows and determines how you raised your child. And what's crazy is sometimes the outside influence, right, kind of throws shade in there sometimes, right? And what I mean by that, it throws shades in there sometimes because it kind of like outshines the parents' work. Because sometimes these kids do get, how can I say, change throughout, in between of them, being a kid and being, an adult. That, that in between, not yet a grown man or a woman, but not, not a little kid no more. You see where I'm coming from? That in between right there is where they go through different phases. You see where, like, that's what I'm like, yo, these topics are hard. And I'm talking to myself. So I'm going to let this video play. All right. So once again, all right, as parents, all right, listen, dealing with kids, trying to work, trying to do this, trying to parent, trying to do things the right way, it takes a mental toll. So somewhere along the line, we have to try to take, some type of support, all right, and build a support system that will help us. Whether you're a mother, whether you're a father, okay? And just because you're a man, all right, doesn't mean that you cannot, build some type of mental support for your child, your family, all right? You could do that. Facts, Ozzy. Damn, Ozzy's been chatting. Yep, yep. Hold on, let me pay attention to Ozzy before I get to the video, man. Because listen, I just wanted to put this out here because it's a shame that this is happening. And listen, as a community activist, right, as a block captain, right, as a leader of my community, it is not easy to try to get these resources in for our communities, right? We got more programs for our little girls than we got for our little boys. All right, we do got mental health out here, but people don't want to go receive any type of support because when you hear mental health, when you hear therapy, when you hear psychiatrist, when you hear psychologist, right, when you hear counselor, all right, or coach, people think that, oh no, I'm not crazy, I'm not delusional, I'm not this, not realizing that sometimes is, I mean, listen, mental health doesn't mean that you're crazy. All right, it just means that sometimes some of us need to let something out, right, to someone. And not everybody has the experience to give you the proper advice. All right. And therapy works. It depends, on who you're going to therapy with, right? Find the right therapist and boom. You might see some, how can I say, some accomplishments. But, it's hard to put this out there. Y'all get where I'm coming from, all right? Ozzy says Republicans have all three branches of the government and still sitting on their hands. So he's seeing what I'm seeing. You have to have a little larceny in you to become a politician. Crooks checks their hard drives and their facts, yo. Listen, I'm just not willing to sell my soul to the devil. True, they want we the people fighting each other to take our eyes off their crimes. Facts. Listen, they taught us how to do everything, right? We listen. We share the pain, right? Allegedly. All right, we dance in the rain, but you know what we doing is we covering up pain. All right, a lot of people deflect their pain and insecurities onto others because we don't know how to talk about our problems. You see where I'm coming from? The pain that we carry, that shit lingers in the shadows, and is, how can I say, a darkness that we can never explain. It really is. We share everything but the motherfucking pain because we think that sharing that part of our lives. I can't even speak for nobody. Me, I when I was younger, I didn't speak up because fear was put in me. But when I learned how to speak up, right, when I was taught to speak up, right, because trust me, they had to teach me. But I had to let somebody in order for them to be able to teach me. Before that, I didn't let nobody teach me. I was hard-headed. I was angry at the world. I was lashing out at the world. I didn't want to listen to shit. I was right. I was doing everything perfect according to me, not realizing that I was making mistake after mistake after mistake and not paying attention to those mistakes. One day, bam, they all smacked me in the face and I fell hard on my fucking face. Hard. That's where I fell on my face. Hard. You see where I'm coming from? And I had to get up and fix them teeth. All right. Fix that broken nose, them bruised eyes, that injured brain of mine that hit the floor, right? So I had to get it together. I had to shake it off and realize, like, damn, you are the reason you're stuck. Because you have these choices and you have these options, but you don't want to pick none of them. You choose to keep lashing this anger out on people, bleeding on people, instead of healing yourself and turning that pain into motivation. But I didn't know how to do it in the beginning. You see where I'm coming from? I had to let someone in. It has to come from you. All right? That's why I'm putting myself as an example. Can't nobody help you get no help unless you let them help you get help. As crazy as that sounds, all right? People are speaking up, but they are silenced. Facts, yo. I love Ozzy, yo. Listen, we like-minded. We don't think the same, but we like-minded. Kids don't go out and play anymore. They never look up for, from their phones and video games. Facts, 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 facts. Listen, I got hard on my daughter yesterday. She got a little sassy attitude. I snatched that phone so fast to remind her who the fuck is in charge. All right. I had to remind my daughter, yes. And guess what? She don't be on social media unless I'm there. That's the funny part. But you know what it is? When she's in school, she hears her friends. They're able to do this. They're able to do that. And I'm a little stricter. So when she comes home, she's a little mad. She catches, oh, mom, why can't you? My friends are doing, I don't give a fuck what your, friends' parents are letting them do. I'm not your friend's parents. I'm your mother. All right. My biggest concern is you. What happens to you? You see where I'm coming from? And if your friend is here, yes, I worry about your friend. And my biggest concern is what's going on with your friend and you. But right now, my priority is you, keeping you in line, keeping you on track, making sure that you understand what's going on so you don't get yourself involved in any situation. You see where I'm coming from? Every day I ask them, how was your day in school? All right, how you feeling? All right, how, that the things that were done to them that made them feel some type of way, how did that make them feel? And what, can we do to, help them, let that go and move on? You see where I'm coming from? And what I mean by letting go and move on is not dwell on it. You see where I'm coming from? How do we improve the situation so it don't happen again? So you listen, once again, being a parent can take a whole mental toll. So you have to find some type of support and build a support system to help you with your child, especially if you're a single mother out here. All right. And even though we're talking about mothers, all right, the same thing goes to the fathers. Okay. Because there's a lot of great fathers out there, all right, that are being fathers and doing what they got to do in their kids' lives. And just because they're, some fathers are out there working, making money, all right, and they're just there, a part of the time, with their kids, doesn't mean that they're not a father, all right? And it doesn't mean that, life isn't taking a mental toll on him. So we have to care about men's mental health too. I had to throw that in there, all right? Because I like speaking about both. We have to bring awareness to both. But let me see. You are hitting on the things that need to be dealt with to wake our kids up, but the parents are doing the same thing. Facts. Yep, I'm 57 and still learning. I've been homeless many times. Listen, I've never denied the fact that I've had to hit a shelter one time, right? And it was because I decided to leave. Listen, one day my bipolar kicked in, all right? I went, I packed my shit, all right? I packed my kids, got on a Greyhound, all right? I ended up in Ohio, Youngstown, Ohio, to be specific, all right? I had nowhere to go, right? And the first few days, what was it? The first month I stayed at my cousin's house, all right? But I don't like, how can I say, taking over people's places. Listen, I was raised different, all right? Like I was taught that, after the third day your shit stinks. So I wanted to get my shit together, but Ohio wasn't like Philly. I was trying to get my son the support that he needed. He had autism, ADHD, all right? And it was I was like I was mad as shit at the time because I'm sitting here, I was like, wait a minute. I can get mental health faster shit here for my son, but it's I mean for me, but it's hard as shit to get it for my son. The resources and all that wasn't, on point in Youngstown, Ohio when I went there, right? So I had to come back to Philadelphia after a year because it's like, damn, a year and I'm still not getting any type of services that I need from my son. I was like, fuck this, I'm going back to Philly. All right. Like there was no way in hell that I was going to sit here and have my son suffer because, my ass sat here and said, fuck everybody, because they was putting me through a lot. Mental health is real. It exists. You see where I'm coming from? I really packed my shit and my kids and I left. Like, I'm like, yo, y'all don't understand what's going on with me. My baby pops just passed away. My son is going through this. Then my mom was, ending up in the hospital. I was dealing with her. Like, she was in and out. So for them few years, I was like, one day I just snapped. I left everybody right where they at. I was tired of supporting everybody around me. I was tired of helping everybody. And I was like, you know what? Fuck this shit. I was grieving at the same time. And people don't understand. So, listen, I didn't unalive my kids. You see where I'm coming from? I went and got help. I tried to get help. But there's people out here that do what this mom did. All right? Onika Romulus. All right? I don't know if it was planned. I don't know, if it happened out of the heat of the moment. She took her kids to a gas station and shot all 4 of them. All right, talking about that the devil is with them. And hearing that makes me see that this woman was suffering from some type of mental health, some type of psychosis. She needed help. Did she know how to ask? I don't know. That's why I'm not coming hard on her. You see where I'm coming from? But there are women out here that do know they need some type of mental health support and they don't get it. They know that their kids need them, but they don't give a fuck. And women like that, I can't respect. This woman, I'm not saying I respect her, all right, because I just don't know enough yet to even say, damn, man, fuck this bitch. All right. But it's unfortunate, right, that we don't speak about the mothers that are trying out here. So far, it doesn't seem like this woman tried to get mental health. That she got respect for me? Hey, listen, we'll find out at the end. Let's watch this video. Man, shout out to the real mothers out there, all right, that love their kids, do whatever they got to do for their kids. Shout out to the real fathers out there, all right, that do whatever they got to do for their kids and they don't feel ashamed or embarrassed. Facts. Shout out to Crosby. Facts. Young Riaz. Make sure y'all go check out my young boy, Young Riaz, and his shorts. All right, go show my young boy some support. All right, I'm not sure if Sheriff Clara was live, but make sure y'all go check out Sheriff Clara Dishing Dirt. All right, she has brought humor back to YouTube. If y'all go to my post, y'all will see who I am talking about. All right. So if y'all want to laugh a little bit, all right, she has spicy conversations at nighttime, all right, and humor during the day, all right. Tea time all day. So make sure y'all go check out Sheriff Clara Dishing Dirt. She has Dishing Dirt and Dishing Dirt Uncut. Y'all go to my community walls. Y'all will see the videos that I am talking about, and y'all will be able to click the links, all right, to all the YouTubers that I watch here on YouTube. I don't post them. I watch more, sometimes I get stuck watching like, a few content creators at once, all right. So y'all will see constantly the repeat, all right? But there's times where I post different type of content creators out here because, listen, man, you got some that bring awareness, you got some that bring comedy, you got some that bring roasting, all right? And keep it respectful. I don't like the beef. I don't like the drama. I don't like the bullshit, all right? But make sure y'all go check out these content creators, all right? We got a lot of them that bring mental awareness to mental health, like The Word, all right? SBK, Mouthpiece, all right, Gary Busted Down Brown, and plenty more, all right, Kwame Brown. We got a lot of people out here that show some type of awareness to mental health awareness. I feel you. My parents were divorced. I feel you. My parents were divorced when I was 2, and my mom had to move around for our safety. Facts. But as parents, we gotta check our mental health too. Like a lot of parents forget, right, that they gave life. All right, how can I say? They gave birth, all right, to a whole nother human being, another soul. All right, and now your life isn't your life anymore. It belongs to someone else too. You have to share it. All right, until this child is old enough to take care of themselves. You are everything to this child. A doctor, a nurse, a lawyer, all right, an inspector, a officer, a detective, all right, everything, okay? So let's get onto this video, all right? And this is Law and Crime. Shout out to Law and Crime for bringing out information on this case, man. What can cause a mother to really snap and unalive her children? Look, listen, I'm sitting here thinking like, yo, there's nothing in this world that can make me hurt my kids. Listen, my kids are the reason I'm breathing right now. All right, that my heart is beating right now. Without my kids, boy, I'm telling you, listen. The old me is someone that I never want to introduce to nobody. All right. I had my firstborn at a young ass age. All right. And he started changing me. I was 16 when I got pregnant, 17 when I gave birth to him. All right. And me and that little boy grew up together side by side. I was a baby having a fucking baby. All right. Young as shit. All right. Some people don't believe me that when I had my firstborn, and as I was raising him in the beginning, I let him call me Racheal because I felt uncomfortable him calling me mom because I was young. You see where I'm coming from? I was like, damn, I have a baby. This is real. You see, like, people don't understand. Like, I let him call me Racheal, and I didn't understand that was wrong until I had my secondborn, because I was already, my firstborn had already stopped calling me Racheal after, he turned 2 years old. All right, he was already speaking. Listen, when he was 5 months, the fucking first words that came out his mouth was Racheal. We at first we didn't understand what he was saying. But he was saying Racheal. That's the first thing that came out of his mouth because everybody calls me Racheal. Racheal. I remember when he said Ray, I'm like, yo, is he calling me what everybody else calls me? And I let him call me that. Not knowing, no, right? Like, you can't let your child just call you by your first name like that. It was like I was being his friend, not knowing it. You see where I'm coming from? So I made a lot of mistakes, with my firstborn. But you know what's crazy? That throughout time, he taught me how to be a mother. All right. I don't regret my kids. None. All right. Each and every single one of my kids taught me something. All right. Especially how to become a better parent. All right. It melts my heart every time. All right. They leave out that door and they say, Mom, I love you. I'll be back, Mom. They blow their kisses at me. They give me hugs. Like, listen, we got to be parents to these kids. All right. And no matter, you know, no matter how caught up we are, we have to give them time. We have to spend time with them. All right. Listen to their thoughts. Get to know them. All right. A lot of parents fail in that department. So shout out to the real parents out there. All right. We got a lot of good parents out there that, do what they got to do, with their kids, but we don't talk about them. That's something that I want to do. I want to interview certain parents out here, right? That are doing what they got to do. Right. And it's not an interview to put their business out there. All right. It's more like interviews that bring awareness. That's something new that I want to do. Interviews that bring awareness. Have conversations with these parents, ask questions. You see where I'm coming from? So that way that, because listen, I wish we could stop, us having kids at a young ass age. But, I don't know how we could do that. And nobody's got any clues yet on how to do that. So we're going to still have teen pregnancies out here. So that's why I want to do that, interviews that bring awareness. All right. I want to have interviews with the guys out here that, been in these streets, have gotten locked up, been home, learned their lesson, got their shit together, and are on their feet trying to help others. Because there are ways to overcome these obstacles that come our way. But we, a lot of people, all right, a lot of us don't know how to, deal with it or, seek the help that we need. So there are ways, all right. But let's get back to this, all right? I'm all the way off topic. I'm not off topic, really, but I got off topic. Hopefully that don't go over people's heads. I really wasn't off topic, but I'm about to get off topic if I keep going. Let's get to this mother right here, all right? Like I was saying, they say she told deputies her kids were with the devil. All right, listen, let's talk about it, all right? Let's talk about the devil, all right? The devil that wears a badge, holds clipboards, and calls it protocol. 4 kids shot, 2 dead, and CPS had contact. Contact ain't care, like I said earlier. It ain't protection. That's just paperwork with a, body count. Too many social workers are out here, all right? And they don't do their job when they have to. They really don't. All right. They want to fuck with parents that do what they got to do and leave the parents that are neglectful or need some type of support to the side. It is like I'm watching the devil's playground out here in these streets, and then they bring it to social media, right? Like on some, I don't know if it's like type fear tactic type shit. Those that understand, understand. Listen, the media out here, man, boy, they be gaslighting the shit out of the audience, don't they?
Paternity court trying to figure out who the father was of one of her children. This image is per paternity court's YouTube channel. Now, this mom is accused of the unthinkable, allegedly shooting 4 of her kids, killing 2 of them. What we're learning about her past from her time on paternity court to what she said about parenting just a couple of weeks ago. We're on the case presented by Law and Crime. I'm Chris Stewart.
You know something that I've noticed, right? I noticed it with this mom, and I've noticed it with a lot of moms out here. A lot of them are on social media a lot. How can you be on social media all day and take care of your kids? I mean, I'm not trying to bash anybody. I'm just trying to, because it's hard for me. Like, the only time I could actually be on here for maybe an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, right, is when my kids don't got school. You see where I'm coming from? I have nothing to do, and I'm falling back. And I'm glad that I'm starting my little businesses on the side. All right. I work from home. And hey, I got my job back. I'm doing the health aid shit. So yeah, I'm hype. I'm hype as shit that I'm doing what I gotta do again, man. 2 years down, man. I needed this. Shit. We got Empress in the building, yo. Blessings, Empress, yo. Make sure y'all go check out Empress on Love. Great conversations, great topics, yo. And yes, all right, I'm saying her name and promoting her channel because I think she's funny as hell. So shout out to Empress Lonnie One Love, yo. We got Philly in the building. Welcome to Philly, baby. So shout out to Empress Lonnie One Love. All right. She says I picked only if she help. Wait, what? I picked only if she. No, I'm just on this channel. Oh, the shorts. It pops up on the shorts. It pops up on the shorts because I'm on the StreamYard and I'm on that what is it called? Let me see. My bad. What is it called when you change the thingy? Oh, I'm on portrait. I'm on portrait right now on StreamYard. Oh, the poll. Let me see, Rachel. The poll? I was reading, are you on another channel? Wait, let me see. Going up. She said she was talking about the poll. Oh, okay. You picked option 3 on the poll. I'm over here like, wait, what happened? Shit. Okay, so Lonnie's talking about the poll. Should mental health screenings be mandatory for new mothers, right? Damn, what's going on with my John right here? I'm trying to read the options because I remember I think option 1 is yes, it's survival. 2 is no, is an inconvenience. 3, only if she shows signs. So that's the one that Lonnie picked. All right. So she picked 3. Here we go. Now I can see them thingy better. Only if the signs show, and then option 4 is I don't know enough. All right. Me personally, seeing a lot of the stuff, and it's crazy because I said it earlier. I said for me, it's personally, yes, it's survival, and only if the signs show. And I say it because like that, and I had to put both of them together, right? Like for the fact that some mothers don't show, right, the signs of mental health, that some mothers don't show that they need some type of mental health support until after. You see where I'm coming from? Like the baby's maybe a few months, a year old. Sometimes you don't even see it until the baby's like 2 or 3. That's the crazy part. You see where I'm coming from? So it's kind of like, I don't know, there should be some type of screening. But me personally, right, I used to think that it was an invasion, thinking like this. Like, wait, why would you want to sit here and screen me for my mental health? Like, da-da-da-da-da. Now I see it as in like, shit, some women need it. Because I've had conversations with so many people out here, and like, a lot of these women do use these kids for tools to either keep the man, you see where I'm coming from, and stuff like that. And in this situation, I'm not sure, right? Like from watching certain social media posts, right? I'm a little confused. So it's hard to pinpoint until I do more research. So I just don't know enough to give an honest opinion, right? What's going on with her? You see where I'm coming from? I don't know if she unalived her children because she hated the kids' fathers. You see where I'm coming from? Like, I do know that in a lot of her posts from social media that they've posted out there, right, it shows her saying that she hate men, right? She don't need no man for nothing. Da, 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 da. You know how some women come online and talk, so it makes it hard to even figure out if she did this out of hate, out of revenge, or out of mental health. That's the crazy part. So I can't just sit here and just label her without getting more information. Yeah, they used to do it. But I don't know if they stopped doing it. That's why I tell people, man, listen, the last time I had my baby, last time I had a baby, it was 9 years ago. My baby's about to be 9 in December. Like, and I don't plan on having no more kids. I'm good. Like, these make me want to go to, listen, sometimes these kids make me want to go to Friends Hospital. Y'all just don't understand, man. Sometimes I'll be in the bathroom crying, like, let me take a shit in peace. Like, let me just take a shit in peace. All you hear is, Mom, 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 Mom. I'm like, I feel like Lewis from fucking Family Guy. Like, these kids are driving me crazy. I'm like, damn, just let me pee in peace. And then I don't know where you got all three kids from the oldest to the youngest. She did this. He did this. No, she did this. No, can you hit him? Can you punish her? I'm like, one of these days, I'm gonna put myself in a mental institution. Then they all sit down. I'm saying, like, really? I'm like, y'all little freaking rugrats. I know, y'all know I'm joking around, all right? I gotta put some humor into this shit. Like, but I wasn't joking around about the knocking on the bathroom. Like, that'd be all three of them. I can't take a shower in peace. All right. I can't, drain my lizard, even though I don't have a lizard. All right. In peace. I can't take a shit in peace. Real shit. But that's the life of being a parent. All right. Like, you got to make sure that somebody's watching your kids, or, plan a little date on a, like, for me, I'm like, shit, baby, fuck it. Let's go to AC, man. In order for you to get some alone time, because if not, they be on the door all the time, just cop blocking. Just mom. Shit. I'm like, babe, come on, man. We gotta go out somewhere. Shit. Listen, hang me from the ceiling fan in the fucking hotel room over there on the AC. Fuck it. Shit. Man, you gotta make a joke out of something sometimes. All right. Let's get back on this. Let's get back to this. Yo. But yeah, kids could take a mental toll on parents. All right. So a lot of parents need to, I don't know. I don't know if it's ego or pride, but seeing a therapist, seeing a counselor, even listen, you can even talk to your own parents if you don't want to go see therapy. You see where I'm coming from? That's where the support system comes in. Like, even if it's somebody that you trust, I wouldn't just talk to anybody, because not everybody's got the best advice out there. Some people got some fucked up advice, and some people just want to see you fall. So you got to be careful who you vent to, too. So I'm not saying just go out and vent to anybody. What I'm saying is that if you feel as though you can let it out to a certain person and you don't want to go see a therapist or something, start your own support system. All right. I'm just trying to put ideas out there for people. All right. Like Empress said, her youngest was young as fuck. She understand, man. Listen. That's why Aisha Curry is getting attacked so much. Shit. Your youngest is 16? My youngest boy is 16. He just turned 16 in September. My youngest, which is a girl, she 9. My oldest boy, he 19. Yo, these kids, boy. Damn, I didn't know Empress. I didn't know your child and my child were the same age. Shit. Badass little kids, yo. And I got a Libra. My 16-year-old, he's a Libra. Hard-headed as shit. My 19-year-old is a Virgo. That one, you can't tell him anything. That one, bull, man. That one, shit. Let's get back on topic, yo, because I'm getting off, all right? So let's listen to this, all right? Yo, what's up with my keyboard? Get it together, man. Ike, come take care of Tina. Shit. All right, so she was quiet, they said. That's the media's favorite lullaby. Quiet mother, tragic ending. But quiet ain't safe. It's suffocating. It's trauma dressed in silence. And while she unraveled, the system took a nap. All right. Mental health never offered. Not by family, not by neighbors, not by state, because we don't treat mothers. How can I say, martyr them. All right. We glorify their struggle, ignore their breakdowns, and act shocked when, the silence turns violent. All right. So let's get right into this video.
Before I get into what this mom allegedly has been saying on social media about parenting and her time on that reality television show, I want to break down with you the horrifying scene that law enforcement in Texas say they came upon on Saturday of last week. It was October 4th. Police say they were called to this gas station in Brazoria County, Texas. That's south of Houston. It was around 5 o'clock in the morning. The 911 caller, they say, was Oninda Romelis. Deputies said that they didn't know why they were responding to this gas station, but when they arrived, they found that her 4 children were shot. They were inside the car. 2 children were dead, a 13-year-old boy and 3-year-old girl. 2 other children were injured. They are now in stable condition. They are
Yo, them two kids survived for a reason. They had angel wings surrounding them. Because I don't know what the fuck happened to this mom. Like, she got possessed by a demon. I'm telling you, man, we're in the middle of a spiritual warfare. Like, come on, man. There's nothing in this world that, listen, I'm telling you, man, before I even pull a trigger on my kids, I'll pull that bitch on me. Because I can't understand, all right? And I just use myself as an example, all right? Not anybody else. Like, I have a tendency of doing that. So don't think I need any mental health. All right, I was just being a little sarcastic on that. And what I mean by that is I can't understand how there's mothers out here that could just cold-heartedly just pull a trigger on their kids like it's a complete stranger, like it's the ops. Your child is not your ops. Your child is not your enemy. And I know that, some kids are parents' enemies, but it's because the parent was the enemy first. Some way, somehow. Because kids are not born knowing how to fucking hate. All right? How to, how can I say? They're not born with racism. They're not born, with all these things. With all these are learned habits, learned behavior.
8 years old and 9 years old. Deputies say that it's unclear if Romelis fired the gunshots in this gas station's parking lot, or did she allegedly do it somewhere else? Surveillance video allegedly shows her getting out of the car, getting gas, talking on her phone before deputies arrive. Authorities say they believe the gunshots were fired inside the car, but other than that, a lot of this is still a mystery. At a news conference on Sunday, law enforcement would not share too much detail. Here's part of what they said per Fox 26 in Houston.
We've been burning the midnight oil on this ever since this dropped, right? So I can assure you we're looking into this.
But then we received the court documents that have shown what Romelis allegedly told detectives after they took her into custody. Now, according to these court records, Romelis was asked whether she wanted to continue talking with authorities, and she said yes. Now, at first, when she was asked why she called 911, she said she couldn't talk about it. But when she was asked again about calling 911, she allegedly said, quote, "Instead of them doing it to me, I'm going to do it to them." Then, when the investigator asked, quote, "Do what?" Romelis allegedly said, quote, "Kill them all." Romelis then said she didn't call 911. She allegedly said she called, quote, "the devil." As Romelis continued talking, she said that she was ready to work, which detectives write in the court document that it just didn't make sense. Romelis did allegedly say that she had 4 children and said their names and their ages correctly, but when asked where they were, she allegedly said, quote, "the devil." When asked what she meant by that, she said, quote, "they're dead," and quote, "because you can't take me without me taking you." Now, at their news conference, deputies would not discuss anything related to the custody of the children or the family situation involving these children before the shooting, but we have learned.
What's crazy is, right, either she was hearing voices like a schizophrenic, right? And I'm not making a joke out of this. It's just the way I talk and certain listen, sometimes this is why I don't say nothing. I keep my mouth shut because it sounds like I'm roasting, but I'm not. Either she planned this, you see where I'm coming from, on some retaliation or something, I don't know, right? Or she was really hearing voices like a fucking schizophrenic, all right? Like, the signs are there. Listen to exactly what she was saying. Like, I've heard this being said by a lot of people that have snapped, and these people have turned out to, have some type of schizophrenia. This woman, there's no record of her ever receiving any type of mental health. So we don't know if she was suffering from bipolar, schizophrenia, put together, like what was going through her head, what made her snap. All right. Like, this wasn't a snap. It was a slow bleed, 1,000 missed chances, 1,000 ignored red flags, and now the headlines want to act brand new. But we're not buying it, all right? Because if you saw something and said nothing, you weren't a bystander. You were part of the neglect. And plenty of people were around saying they didn't see no red flags. How? So yeah, she said the devil was there, but let's be real. The devil had help from every system that watched her drown, from every neighbor that stayed silent, from every institution that called it not my job.
learned that the question of paternity with at least one of these children, it has been raised before. In fact, it was raised very publicly on a TV show called Paternity Court. The episode is still public on YouTube. Now, the episode was about learning who the father was of an 18-month-old boy. Now, it is unclear if that child is one of the victims in this case, but his age does match up with the age of the 13-year-old who was killed. That boy found slumped over inside the car, according to deputies when they arrived at that gas station. Before I get back to this episode of On the Case, which is one of the...
Damn, man. Like, and she went on a TV show trying to find... That's why I say, like, it's a lot of videos of out there surfacing of her that people are posting, right? And it seems like she has some type of hate. And like I said, I don't know if it was towards men, right? I don't know if it was towards her baby daddies or what. Did she plan this? Was it some type of revenge towards her baby daddies, right? I don't know if it's more than one that she has, right? Or was she really having a mental toll?
September. The video has the caption, quote, "Mama gotta have a life too." And here's the caption on the post that reads, quote, "Because what it really do, you're not a bad B word if you're a terrible mother. To all my mamainas handling biz and did not handle biz this week, baby go to happy hour, bleep them kids." Deputies say they are investigating the home where Romulus and her kids lived, which was more than an hour away north of Houston in Montgomery County, Texas. It is still unclear why Romulus and her children inside that vehicle were in the county south of Houston, again, an hour away Saturday morning when she called 911 allegedly. Romulus is now facing 2 counts of murder and 2 counts of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. Bond is set at $5 million each for each murder count and $2 million for each aggravated assault count for a total of $14 million. Law enforcement would not speculate on a motive in this case. We still don't know that. KHOU-TV is reporting that CPS has made contact with Romulus in the past, but the details of that interaction has not been made public. Now, as far as any sort of criminal record for Romulus, this mugshot is from 2022, and it was for an arrest in Georgia in Fayette County. It was related to a DUI, possession of marijuana, failure to maintain lane, and having an improper tag. Court records show that she pleaded guilty to the DUI and improper tag charges, and prosecutors decided not to pursue the 2 other charges she was facing. Joining us now to talk more about this from Texas is Anthony Asso, criminal defense attorney and a former assistant district attorney. Thank you for taking the time to be with us. I know this is an incredibly sad case. Just initially from what we've learned, and there isn't a lot from deputies, but what do you just take away about the evidence that it seems that they have to this point?
Well, I think it's largely that they're relying on the 911 phone call as well as probably interviews from the 2 children that survived the shooting, which, while eyewitness interviews are typically strong testimony, it's her own children. So I think that they're going to really want to work to build up more evidence that will corroborate the testimony of those 2 other children.
Yeah, and the 2 children who survived, I mean, they're both minors. How do you go about, I mean, from, the prosecution standpoint of making sure that you have a story that you could use in court, considering these kids are so young? I believe they're 8 and 9 years old who survived.
Damn.
Well, you want to find, in addition to testimonial evidence, you're going to want to look for all the direct physical evidence that could corroborate what happened, right? So they're going to be looking at the shell casings on the scene. My understanding is that these shootings occurred at a gas station. So we're going to want to look for surveillance video to find out if there's any footage that will corroborate the child witnesses' statements. Because not only are they young witnesses, but they're also the children of the defendant in this case. And so in addition to all the emotional trauma that they're dealing with right now, when it comes down to time to potentially testify in some sort of trial setting, their emotions and feelings could be kind of up in the air.
She's being held on a...
That's true. I mean, 8 and 9, that's a shocker, right? Like, what happened? And they probably trying to figure out why did their mom do that to them? Like, why their, 2 other siblings are not there with them. Like, these kids are going to be in shock for a minute. These kids are going to need some type of mental health support. They're going to need therapy.
A $14 million bond. And I know in a lot of states, and typically you don't see bond that high.
No.
How does it work in Texas where someone could actually be And I know they broke it down with the 2 murder charges are $5 million apiece, and then the 2 aggravated assault charges with a deadly weapon, I believe it was, are $2 million apiece, bringing it to 14. How does that work in Texas?
Well, just like any other state, Texas has to abide by the Constitution. So you can't use bail in order to oppress somebody, and everyone's entitled to bail. However, in Texas, if they put on a proof evident hearing, and I think we could anticipate that there could be a capital murder charge in this case. We don't have that much information yet, but in the event that Brazoria does file capital murder, and they did intend to seek death in this case, they could have a proof evident hearing and ultimately hold the defendant at no bond. But without doing that, and just on murder charges, she's entitled to bail. And I do think that that amount is high, so we'll likely see her defense attorneys file a writ in an effort to lower the bond. Still, I imagine that the bonds will be out of reach for her in these cases.
Because, you know, and still, I mean, we haven't learned a lot about what exactly links her to this shooting. Deputies have said that they believe it happened in the car. They're still figuring out exactly where. They were asked about the murder weapon. It was unclear whether they actually have that. When it comes to a bond hearing in the short term, I mean, what would be the argument that a defense attorney could have to try and lower her bond? And also the other part of it is, what's the point of even lowering it if it would be an amount over $1 million that she might not be able to afford?
Sure, I think it's just regardless.
They're trying to lower her bond? Why are they trying to lower her bond? She shot her 4 kids. I'm like, wait a minute. I'm listening to this and I'm sitting here like, whoa, what is going on? Like, why would y'all even try to lower her bond? Take her ass to trial. That's it. Point blank, period. Or figure out if y'all need to put her in an institution. And what I mean by that, mental health institution. And a mental ward is where she belongs.
Regardless, it's your responsibility as her lawyer to get the bond as low as possible in an effort to try and help her make that bond. Putting together a defense is going to be a lot more successful if you're able to communicate with your client. And the reality is if your client is in custody, that's harder. It's hard to have communication with them. I think the arguments that the defense will likely make are that she's got no criminal history. And I think that they'll probably argue her financial means in this case. But with the facts, as far as from what we've seen so far, I think the prosecution will just rely on the facts. And it wouldn't surprise me if the judge didn't budge on the bail amount in this case.
You read through some of the court documents, and she made some very bizarre, scary statements.
Man, pause you real quick. Like, hey, listen, man, if the judge grants to lower that bond, man, listen, we need to start figuring out something about, when it comes to these, judges and the policies that are in place. All right. We're living, listen, the system that's in place is old as shit when it comes to everything. The systems. Okay. Like, a lot of them need to be changed, and we need to put, different people in, office when it comes to like commissioners, judges, mayors, senators, governors, all that. All right. So that means that as citizens, as humans, right, as the people that, we, the people that put them in place, needs to start doing better, research on who we putting in place. But the problem, the biggest problem we have to, fix first is to get people to start, doing things locally. All right. Because a lot of people are focused on presidential elections, worrying about what the president is doing, and much more. So my thing is, we need to worry about getting, these things, our communities together in place. All right. It's time to rearrange. All right. It is really time to rearrange. Those that understand what I am saying, understand. All right. Like, if you're in Philly, all right, even if you're in Texas, all right, because I just found out that Texas and Philly do it at the same time, all right, y'all can go and vote in your commissioners, all right. They just did the judges. I mean, this has been happening since April, and a lot of people don't even know that they've been able to go to vote and do all this and put the the senators, the governors, the mayors, the judges, all of them in office, all right. So for those of y'all voting for commissioners, trying to get them in, go do y'all research on who's going to be the commissioner of your city and state. All right. And which one, you see or you think best fits to be, running the city. But, it's up to y'all. I'm just letting y'all know.
Saying things like her children are with the devil. She said, kill them all. On one hand, that could be very incriminating, but on the other hand, you would look and say that this isn't someone who maybe is in the right state of mind. How does the law see a statement like that of whether an insanity defense could be coming?
Yeah, Chris, so the law in Texas, when it comes to insanity, basically states that you have to establish that the person wasn't aware of the consequences of their actions. So they really couldn't process what they were doing at the time that the offense was committed. It's a really high standard, and you don't often see successful insanity defenses. They do occur, but it's definitely the exception to the rule. So I think statements like that are something that the defense at least would tip the defense off to explore in this case, especially when we're talking about first-degree murder charges or potentially capital murder where a defendant faces life without parole in prison. The defense has to explore every single avenue, whether that's is she the person that actually committed the offense? Was she acting in self-defense, or did she do it, but was she acting, was she insane at the time and unable to process what was going on? So
I mean, shit, how can they prove that? All right, when allegedly to people there was no red flags. So if there was no red flags, right, that leaves her as being somebody that was sane. All right, did she snap because all the stress and everything? Maybe there's a possibility in there. You see where I'm coming from? But when you watch her, social media posts and everything that's being said, all right, nobody saw no signs, none of that. So to me, right, this is my opinion, right? Either this is a case where, she was suffering from psychosis, mental health, all this stuff, right? Some type of trauma already. People missed the red flags. Or this chick was just out on some revenge shit towards these kids' dads. All right? Because what's crazy is family members didn't even catch the red flags. According to them, right? According to the grandfather, right? He said he couldn't believe it, all right? That she was capable of this. But belief doesn't change the outcome. 4 kids gone, and now the family's left to pick up pieces. The system dropped. All right? You want to hear heartbreak? Listen to a grandfather trying to make sense of a massacre. You want to hear failure? Listen to the silence that comes before it. All right? Like, I'm not going to sit here and lie. Like, grief doesn't erase neglect. All right, the grandfather's pain is real, but so is the question, why didn't anyone act sooner? All right, why was CPS contact just a footnote? Why was mental health support never offered? Grief is the aftermath. Neglect is the cost. All right, she didn't just snap. She was dropped. Texas mom, 4 kids. All right. 4 kids shot, 2 dead, and she told deputies, instead of them doing it to me, I'm going to do it to them. That's not just a confession, it's a cry from the edge. But how did she get there? Who let her get there? Herself? Others? Like, we're talking about a woman with a $14 million bond, all right? 2 murder charges, 2 aggravated assault charges, but where were the charges for the system that watched her unravel? Where's the indictment for the silence, for the missed red flags, for the CPS contact that meant nothing? She didn't just wake up and decide to kill her kids. All right. She was either spiraling or planning this. All right. She was isolated. All right. Either she failed or she was failed. And now the media wants to paint her as, just a monster. But the monsters don't grow in peace. They grow in neglect. You want to talk about the devil? Let's talk about the devil that wears a badge and calls it protocol. The devil that checks a box and walks away. The devil that says she was quiet and never asked why. Really?
I think we'll certainly see the defense explore that avenue in this case.
What would be the point where the defense could actually make that argument? Because it's one thing that she makes these statements in spur of the moment. I haven't seen anything that she's had any sort of history with mental health in the past. Maybe she has an undiagnosed disorder that could explain some of this activity. How does both the prosecution and defense kind of explore that and figuring out whether that would be a viable defense for her?
Well, the first line for the defense in this case is going to be obtaining an expert to have her evaluated and to look at the facts and look at the overall investigation in this case, because they're not going to be able to establish that she was acting out of insanity if they don't have an expert testify to that effect. You've got to then notify the state if you intend to use that kind of evidence in a trial. So I imagine the state would have their own expert to conduct a similar evaluation. To counter that, I think the prosecution is likely going to rely on the circumstances surrounding the shooting in this case, right? The fact that Ms. Romelis left the scene is going to be something that they would rely upon to say, look, you fled in an effort to avoid getting in trouble, which goes so that you had recognition of the consequences of your actions. So it's sort of the circumstances surrounding the shooting that I think the state will heavily rely on.
If it was found, and I'm just thinking off the top, say she's schizophrenic and she's never known that she was schizophrenic, and they find through this evaluation that she is. I mean, what's the bar still, even if that was the case, what makes the bar so high to actually use an insanity defense?
Well, you could rely, I mean, the schizophrenic, her suffering from schizophrenia could be probative for the defense, but it's a matter of tying that in to this instant offense and showing that due to that schizophrenic episode that the defendant couldn't process what they were doing. And so you have to create that nexus. And I think that's what makes the bar so high here. I think finding an expert to testify to say, hey, look, a lot of people won't say, a lot of people won't say schizophrenia could lead to that, or could lead to you not recognizing what's going on. So it's having an evaluation that shows that, in fact, she didn't realize what she was doing at the time she shot her 2 children. So I think that's what creates a high bar.
And even beyond that, because if they file capital murder charges and say they seek the death penalty in this case because she shot 4 kids allegedly, killing 2 of them, on the flip side of it, let's say she was found not guilty by reason of insanity. Like, what would life look like for her? And I know we're getting way ahead of ourselves of where we are in this, but just thinking that one possibility could eventually be the death penalty, what would be on the flip side of that if the insanity defense actually worked out?
Yeah, that's a good question, Chris, because I think there's a general assumption that someone would then just walk free. And the reality is they don't. There's a structured period of time where when somebody's found not guilty by reason of insanity, that they can still, they're incarcerated, but they're typically in a state mental hospital until there's a restoration of their sanity and competency. So you don't just walk away from that without any sort of, I wouldn't use the word punishment, but ongoing treatment for whatever mental illness you were struggling with at the time. But I do think,
What was she struggling at a time? All right, because this ain't just about Oneida Romelis, all right? It's about every woman drowning in silence, every child who deserves safety, every system that watched and did nothing. So yeah, she says she had to kill them all. But the real question is, who made her believe that that was the only way out? All right, she said her kids were with the devil, but the devil didn't act alone. All right, he had help. CPS had contact, but contact ain't care. It ain't safety. It ain't action if the system checks the box and walks away. All right. It's not protecting. It's enabling tragedy. 4 kids shot, 2 dead, and CPS wants to act surprised, man. Nah. They were in the room the whole time. Nobody even peeps. And what I mean by that, they should have did what they had to do when they were there. But they kept coming to look like in every other case that we see like this, and they leave. All right. You got parents out here showing them that they got the things that, that they got, they're getting their life together. They're doing what they got to do. All right. Their kids are not being neglected. Their kids are not being starved, but yet you see them right there constantly harassing a parent that has to do, they're doing what they got to do, but you don't harass the parents that are really neglecting their kids, leaving them alone at home, abusing them. All right. Talking to them like, they ain't shit. much more, but you want to harass a parent is doing what they got to do. All right. We glorify moms as superheroes, then leave them to drown. No therapy, no check-ins, just diapers and dishes and breakdowns. Motherhood isn't treatment. It's a trigger if support is missing. All right. You don't fix trauma with a baby bottle. And grief doesn't erase neglect. So now the family's crying, the grandfather's speaking out, and the media's playing sad music. But grief doesn't erase red flags. It doesn't erase the silence. It doesn't erase the fact that this was preventable. Mourning without accountability is just PR.
Whether or not they can mount an insanity defense, I do think if there was any mental health, that's something the defense would use in an effort to sort of mitigate whatever offer she might receive from the state before a trial ever occurred in this case.
And I know that you've worked cases in this county. You know, in a case like this, if they do have the evidence that they believe that they have, or at least that they've kind of insinuated to us that they've had, that seems like they have a pretty strong case. I mean, how likely is it that prosecutors would offer a deal down the line if it's something where it seems like she would get the death penalty for this?
Well, assuming that they have the facts they need to make this case and there's not anything to support that she was acting out of any mental health episode, I think they're going to be really hard pressed to get any sort of offer. The defense would be hard pressed to get any sort of offer that would resolve this case. I imagine that they're probably there's going to be long sentences. I mean, I think we could see, and if they were to file a capital murder charge, we could easily see an offer of life without parole or a life sentence offering in this case. And so under those circumstances, it typically leads to trials.
And so I know you work in Houston, and she lives in Montgomery County, which just looking at a map is north of the city, and then Brazoria County is south of Houston. It seems like these are, just in terms of trying to figure out exactly what happened. I mean, they say call 911 around 5 o'clock in the morning Saturday. She's at this gas station south of the city, very far away from where she lives. Just the geographic part of this, as someone who lives in Houston, what stands out to you?
Well, it's odd. I think the time of day, obviously, at that hour being, because Montgomery County and Brazoria County, specifically where Miss Ramelis lived, that's about an hour and a half to an hour and 45 minutes away.
Damn.
So she's at a random gas station at 5:30 in the morning with all of her kids in the back seat. It's definitely, I see investigators wanting to find out more about why she was down there.
Right? Like, what made her, like, out of nowhere want to just, unalive her kids? Like, did she not want to be with them? Did she not want them to begin with? Like, was she just using them to gain something out of them? I don't know. The more and more I look, into this, right, I'm still stuck in between mental health and revenge. It's like she felt like she couldn't, use her kids. They couldn't benefit her anymore, so she said, fuck it. But then does that make it seem, could she be a psychopath? That still goes back to mental health, right? This is crazy.
And the way they're going to do that, I think, will be through cell phone examination. So they'll probably get a warrant to search that phone and talk to witnesses that knew more about her life. And then just if I think of the defense attorney that's going to get this case, and let's say the mental health argument, the insanity defense is just not there. How do you approach this case with her and defend someone if the prosecution, it seems that they feel like they have a pretty strong case that they have the person responsible for what happened to these kids? Well, it's hard to say what specifically a defense lawyer is going to do without knowing the entirety of the investigation. But there's a lot of things they'll probably want to harp in on. They're going to want to listen to the statement of the two other children. They're going to want to look at the crime scene and look to see whether the crime, whether the investigation was conducted properly. Were chain of custodies when it comes to the ballistics on scene done properly? Did they do DNA in this case? And just when you look at the big picture, trying to find the holes in the investigation where the police didn't do their job. like they're supposed to. I think that would be a start. I also think that there might not be mental health issues, but there's certainly things that you could look back on and try to find about Miss Ramelis that might mitigate why she did this, right? So you're going to want to look at her childhood and kind of dig back every layer of her life to see if there's things in her life that were traumatic that might lead her to act or respond in a certain way.
And that's what I was saying. So that's for that video right there. Let's go to the next one. All right.
It is impossible to make.
All right, because listen. We're not here to whisper. We're here to break the silence because mental health isn't a trend. All right. It really isn't. All right, we're about to get to that video. But mental health, listen, mental health isn't a trend. All right. It's survival, and too many are slipping through the cracks. All right. While the system takes notes and never takes action. All right. You want to talk about straight? Let's talk about the mother who held it together until she couldn't. The one who smiled in selfies, all right, showed up for her kids and still unraveled in plain sight. Not because she was weak, but because she was alone. Mental health doesn't wear a warning label, all right? It hides in routines, all right? It masks itself in motherhood. It shows up in quiet breakdowns and loud consequences. And if we keep pretending it's invisible, we'll keep burying the aftermath. This isn't just about one woman. It's about every woman who's been told to push through, every parent who's been handed responsibility without support, every neighbor who saw the signs, all right, and didn't know what to do. So let's talk about the check-ins. Let's, stop waiting for tragedy to trend before we care, because mental health isn't a luxury. It's a lifeline, all right? And silence is a killer. We're not just raising awareness, we're raising the volume, because if the system won't listen, we'll make it, impossible to ignore, all right? And let's listen to a little bit of this video, right? And then I'm gonna get into, what I think about, the other, how can I say, my other theory, my other way of perceiving this, all right? It could be a mother that is mad at the kid's father for not being there. You see where I'm coming from, right? But is she the reason that the kid's father is not there? Because videos constantly show, videos of her social media constantly show her bashing men, saying she don't need them. We've seen it plenty of times of women, sitting here, how can I say, using the kids as a tool for a man. And when, they can't use the child as a tool for a man, the child is abused and neglected. So what's going on in this situation? Is she, or was she suffering from mental health? Or is this, something that she, out of, one day said, fuck it, I'm tired. Like, I'm not getting no type of support, no type of help from, the daddy or no man, right? But she's the one that says that she don't need no men. Like, let's play the video. Let's see what they got to say, all right? This is more of an update. This was yesterday, all right? So this update has been, they came with this video. Was it yesterday? Yep. That's going to be about a little over than a day. So I'm going to say 2 days ago. So really, this update is 3 days old. It's older than the video we were just watching.
Sense of a senseless tragedy like this, but we will do everything we can to seek justice for these children.
A Texas woman is accused of gunning down her own children in a horrific act of violence. Now, somehow, 2 of the 4 victims survived. They're now in recovery as their mom sits behind bars on a $14 million bond. And as the investigation into Oninda Romulus widens, stranger and stranger details are coming out about what was allegedly going on inside her home. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber.
Like I said, at this point, this is still an ongoing. However, what is most important is that our team is working on this. We've been burning the midnight oil on this ever since this dropped, right? So I can assure you we're looking into this, and there is a lot of stuff that is not able to be released at this point.
Law enforcement in 2 Texas counties are trying to piece together what led to a mother allegedly shooting her 4 children inside of a car, killing the oldest, a 13-year-old boy, and the youngest, a 3-year-old little girl. Brazoria County authorities say 31-year-old Oninda Romulus herself called 911. This was just before 5 a.m. on Saturday, October 4th, from an Oasis convenience store in Angleton. According to a criminal complaint that was later filed against Romulus, quote, affiant learned from the Brazoria County Dispatch that a black female identified as Oninda Romulus had shot her 4 juvenile children and was currently located at the convenience store. So this complaint goes on to explain the scene that this investigator came upon at the gas station, where a white car was parked at a gas pump with the engine running, okay? Quote, a white sheet was covering a small child's body that was lying on the ground behind the vehicle. Affiant observed a second white sheet covering a body that was on the passenger side of the car between the car and the gas pump. Affiant observed the body was positioned with its body hanging halfway out of the front passenger door with legs in the vehicle and the upper torso and head on the ground. It's absolutely horrific. Now, at a news conference, authorities said that while they believe that this shooting took place inside the car, they don't know, or it's unclear where the car was when that happened. According to the investigator, the store owner arrived, let the deputy look at the surveillance footage. The investigator wrote that they were able to see a woman believed to be Romulus get out of the white car, walk around to the gas pump. It reportedly appeared like she was talking on the phone at the time, so possibly already on the phone with 911, not entirely sure. Once she got gas, she was seen walking back to the driver's side, stops to look in the rear window before getting back into the driver's seat.
So obviously this shows that she didn't unalive her kids in the gas station. She unalived her kids elsewhere. So like, why not follow all the cameras around to see where was her last spot? Where was she last at when with them kids to see where she unalived them? Did y'all check her property, her home? You see where I'm coming from?
Now, the first deputies on the scene, they tried to talk to Romulus, but when she started backing away from them and the car, that's when they detained her. That is when they realized that there was a male slumped over in the front passenger seat. He was later identified as 13-year-old Acario. They tried to render aid, but he was dead. He was dead from gunshot wounds. And that is when they saw that there were 3 other children in the back seat, also sustaining gunshot wounds. And despite their best efforts, another child, 3-year-old Amora, was pronounced dead. The 2 others, an 8-year-old, a 9-year-old, they were life-flighted to a hospital. Court documents indicate multiple guns were found with Romulus, whether they were on her person or in the car, it wasn't specified. But according to the complaint, deputies had already Mirandized Romulus, so the investigator tried to talk to her to find out what happened here, but said she, quote, wasn't making any sense. And at that point, she was taken to jail. When the investigator got back to the sheriff's office, Romulus was escorted to an interview room. They wrote in the complaint that she appeared paranoid, didn't want to sit down, kept looking out the door of the interview room. But the investigator was finally able to build enough rapport with her to ask a few questions. The complaint reads, during the interview, affiant asked Oninda Romulus why she called 911, and she stated that she couldn't talk about it. Affiant then asked several more questions as to why she called 911, and she stated, instead of them doing it to me, I'm going to do it to them. Affiant further asked, do what? Oninda Romulus stated, kill them all. At one point, when Romulus was being questioned.
And see that right there, when, she says that leads you to think, was she suffering from, mental health? But everybody around her said that she was cool, calm, collected, from family members to, neighbors. I don't know if they did their, research for when she was staying in Georgia, how she was when she was in Hades. So it seems like, there's a lot of, investigation to be done in this case, all right? Because they are only, I guess, right now telling about her life in Texas, the time that she was in Texas and stuff like that. You see where I'm coming from? But it is deeper. It's deeper to this. Could she have mental health, instability, or is she, on some revenge type shit? Could she just be an evil woman who doesn't care? But then again, does that lead back to mental health?
She reportedly said that she didn't call 911. She called, quote, the devil. Affiant continued with the interview and asked Oninda Romulus if she had any children. She stated, Affiant further asked how many children she has, And Oninda Romulus replied that she has 4 children, naming them and stating their ages. Affian asked Oninda Romulus where her children were, and she stated they were with, quote, the devil. Affian then asked what she meant by that statement, and Oninda Romulus stated they're dead. Affian asked Oninda Romulus what she meant by that statement, they're dead, and she stated, because you can't take me without me taking you. Oninda Romulus further stated that her children were dead to her. So authorities, they charged her with 2 counts of murder, 2 counts of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, and she was booked on a $14 million bond. It turns out, though, that Romulus's home was in Porter, Texas, in Montgomery County, so that's more than 60 miles away from where she was arrested. And we got our hands on the search warrants that were filed by Montgomery County investigators, and I will tell you, they provide more information about her that we need to talk about. All right, so before we dive into all these details, I want to welcome on a new guest here on Sidebar, Dr. Tia Nancy Wilson, a nationally recognized legal scholar, commentator, law degree from Howard University, doctorate from the University of Texas at Austin, knows how to break down all of these complex criminal matters. Thank you so much for taking the time, and welcome to Sidebar.
All right, let me pause that right there. This story is getting wilder and wilder, right? As the minute passes by. Like, there's a pattern, all right? And we've seen it before. So let's talk about it. Some mothers use their children as emotional leverage, shield, or weapons, especially when they feel abandoned, betrayed, or unsupported. That doesn't mean that every mother does it, but when it happens, it's often a symptom of deeper trauma, unresolved resentment, all right, and a warped sense of control, all right? And Oninda Romulus' case, we don't have full clarity yet. But what we do know is she made disturbing statements like, instead of them doing it to me, I'm going to do it to them, and called the devil, my bad. And there's a lot of sources, including KPRZ2, all right, showing that quote. She appeared paranoid and erratic during questioning, repeatedly looking towards the door and making disconnected remarks like, I'm ready to work. Her social media reportedly included posts bashing men, claiming she didn't need them, and expressing hostility towards male figures. All right, the how can I say, that last part matters, not because it's criminal, but because it can signal emotional isolation, distrust, and unresolved trauma. When someone feels betrayed or unsupported by partners, families, or systems, they may start to see their children as the only thing they control. All right, and I want y'all to remember that. I've said this plenty of times before in different lives. And in extreme cases, that control can turn toxic. All right, and it's crazy because these kids could, if she did, what's crazy is this could go 2 ways. All right, what if these kids, what if she didn't unalive these kids that day, right? And these kids survived, but instead of, her unaliving them, they unalive her in the future. Kind of like the Menendez brothers case. But they were being sexually assaulted. I don't know if these kids were being abused mentally, physically, but something was going on. All right? So yes, it's possible she was using her kids as tools, whether to punish others, express rage, or reclaim power. All right? But that doesn't mean, my bad. Let me get my thoughts together. That doesn't happen in a vacuum, all right? It happens when mental health is ignored, when support systems are absent, and when pain festers into pathology, my bad, all right? This isn't about one mother. It's about how society lets trauma not rot until it explodes, all right? It's about how we fail women who are hurting, then act shocked when they hurt others, all right? Here we go.
Sidebar, we really love having you.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Great to end this conversation.
Yeah, this is a tough case. I mean, the information we know so far is just chilling. It is so shocking. A scene for law enforcement to respond to. You have 4 children, grisly wounds, 2 of them already dead, 2 who could die if they didn't get immediate help. What is your initial reaction when looking at this, and what do you say to people? What is the number one priority when responding to a scene like this?
My number one response was, oh my God, the children.
Yeah.
Right. I looked at the transcript and then got to see a little bit of the video, I guess, from the scene. And I'm just thinking, like, what type of mental state must someone be in to allegedly do this to the children and then get out, drive to a gas station on the phone and start pumping gas, right? While some of the children are within a inch of their life. But in terms of the kind of preserving the crime scene for the police and for law enforcement, even for a defense attorney, right? The first thing you want to do here is check the car and see, is anyone alive? Right? Can we get a medical expert out here to survey this scene? How do we get this woman to begin talking if she'll talk at all? Right? Is she Mirandized? Are we going to be able to use what she's telling us, one, to preserve the crime scene for a prosecution and perhaps for a defense, but also making sure that we can get to the wounds and understand what has happened to these kids? Because clearly from the affidavit, it's not immediately clear that the children had been shot, right? Or whether they're alive or dead. So that'd be my first couple priorities there.
By the way, you know why we're able to bring you stories like this? It's not only because of the amazing support that we get from all of you out there, but also from our incredible sponsor, Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury. Covered over 20 in Florida. In Pennsylvania, a client was awarded. There's another in just 8.
What? Damn.
You mentioned mental health. The investigator said at least twice in this affidavit that Romulus, quote, wasn't making sense, was acting paranoid. When you read something like that, what do you make of it?
Well, I mean, there's a lot more that needs to be done. So as a criminal defense attorney, my first thought is, one, is she going to be competent to stand trial in the future, right? But that determination is made at the kind of moment that we're getting ready to go to trial, not at the crime scene. But two, at that crime scene, is she just speaking gibberish? Is she acting? Does she need mental health support? Because a lot of times you will have folks that are maybe just in shock. And I can't imagine, allegedly shooting or even just being accused of shooting 4 of my children, killing 2 of them, that I would not be in shock, that I would not be saying anything, right, to an officer or to myself, to God, whoever I believe in, to my family. I'd also be interested in thinking about who she was on the phone with after she called the police. That'd be interesting to me. But in that moment, we're going to want to have her have some type of evaluation because she could be leading you down a rabbit hole, or, it could just be that whatever she's saying is not helpful to the crime scene investigation or to the investigation of, are there other children, which we kind of find out later.
There are 2 things to that as I was reading it. One, the idea of allegedly shooting your own children, there's got to be something there. So first thought I wondered, is she even on the phone with anybody, right? If you're thinking about delusion, I mean, was she even speaking to anybody? Let's put that there. But my understanding is in Texas, and I know this is an incredibly tough defense. I know that this doesn't always apply, but when you're dealing with a situation like this, I immediately looked it up. Texas has the insanity defense. And if you're talking about whether somebody appreciated the wrongfulness of their actions, and obviously we don't have all of the details yet, but is that something that may be considered by a defense attorney when you're talking about such a heinous crime like this? And it may be difficult for a jury to accept, how on earth could someone shoot children like this? There has to be something wrong.
That's right. Well, I mean, I think in a situation like this, you always consider every defense, right? Because again, just to remind our viewers, what we have right now is affidavits from the police. We have the police's side of the story. We don't have her side really yet. I always tell when I was teaching law, I tell my students, look, when you read an affidavit, you read a crime scene report, you read a complaint, this is the worst case scenario for the client, right? This is, if all the worst things are true, that's what we're reading right now. So as a defense attorney, of course, you're going to want to consider that insanity defense. And it's not the best defense you can get. It's not the one you want to use. It's not a get out of jail free card. Because if you use that, that does not mean you are not going to be punished. It means, right, in many cases, and Texas is a strange state. I got to look a little bit closer. I haven't been there in a minute. But it generally means across the country that you're going to be incarcerated held. Let's not say incarcerated, detained maybe. It's maybe a better word, until you reach sanity, right? And then your punishment might change. So this isn't like you get an insanity defense and now you're out at your house, right, on medication or being checked up on unsupervised probation. No, you're still going to be held away from society. right? So that's something that we have to think about. But again, the insanity defenses, were they able to appreciate the wrongfulness of their act at the time? And we don't know that, right? But do they also understand that the thing that they're doing is criminal? That's another thing that we're going to think about. So she could say that, yeah, the devil made me do it. That still may not meet the standard of insanity in Texas. So that's going to be a hard defense to make. And if I'm the defense attorney on this case, I'm going to be looking at other things. Did someone else shoot these kids?
Like, this is crazy. But damn, that's another possibility too. Whoa, what he just said, hold on, let's go back. I didn't even think about that. Is she covering for someone? Did someone else shoot the kids? But then who? Huh. See? Listen, I normally drop the link, right? But I know people ain't gonna come up, especially on sensitive topics like this, all right? And plus, people barely be on the chat like that down there when there's a whole bunch of people live. It's Friday. There's a lot of content creators lives, but I ain't worried about that, man. We listen, we're bringing awareness to mental health, all right? Like, drop a little, praying hand down there, all right, for all those that need mental health, all right? And listen, let's have faith that those that need it will take it, will seek it, all right? Because you can't get it unless you're willing to receive it, all right? So drop them little hands down there. Like, we got to bring more awareness. Listen, the way we do this is by having more and more conversations like this. I don't care if nobody's in the chat. I'm going to still do lives like this, all right? I'm going to still bring awareness to, sexual abuse, mental health, men's rights, women's rights, all of that, all right? Our children's rights. I'm going to still bring awareness to all of that, because the more I speak on it, all right, it's going to reach different people, all right? And that's what I need. It's going to reach whoever it needs to reach, so that they can see that there's, other ways to go about things, all right? And what we doing with these lives is to, like, try to get people to talk, have conversations, all right? To show people that there's other ways, all right? Let's bring to the solutions to the table and see which one best fits, all right, to help improve whatever situation is currently happening and preventing it from happening again in the future, all right? So that's why we do these lives, right? Like, I don't care if I have 3-4 people in the chat, all right? Like, if you're here, you're listening, all right? You've shared a video, you've gave your comments, you gave your perspective, your opinion, man, your support, and you are a part of the support. You are a part of making a change, all right, of making improvement. And this is what we need to do, all right? Because what if somebody else did kill her, them kids? Who is she covering for if that plot is true?
Defense to make, and if I'm the defense attorney on this case, I'm going to be looking at other things. Did someone else shoot these kids? Right? Was she under the influence? Was she unlawfully drugged by someone else? Is there medication in her?
Can we talk about that real quick before we get in any further? Would it be standard protocol to test her blood for any alcohol, drugs, toxins? And if they didn't, if law enforcement didn't, is that something that a defense attorney could bring up as a potential issue later down the line?
Yep.
If they did not?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's something I would bring up. I mean, generally cases like this, and in any case, particularly in Texas, where they love to test your blood for anything, they're probably going to do these tests mostly for a liability issue for the jail as well, because now you've brought this person in who's clearly acting delusional, walking in circles, talking to someone who's not there, talking to the devil, saying her kids are with the devil because she's not going to let them take her out. There's something wrong here. So you're good.
Let's not forget, right? I had to pause him right there. So let's not forget too, right? A person that doesn't, that's never, that doesn't have any type of documentation, right, of receiving mental health, all right, or going through any type of mental health in her life. Everybody is saying that she was good, she was this type of person, but then it's kind of like something's not adding up, something's not making sense. The math ain't mathing, y'all. All right. The math ain't mathing, just like in a lot of cases, all right, we have to go down rabbit holes to figure out what really happened and what would make someone commit this type of crime.
Saying her kids are with the devil because she's not going to let them take her out. There's something wrong here. So you're going to have a medical evaluation, and that medical evaluation team is going to decide what tests need to be done to best treat this person. Because the other thing that you're going to be looking for if you're the jail or the sheriff in Texas is to say, wait a minute, I don't know if this person needs to be on suicide watch. I don't want this liability in my jail without having a medical team truly evaluate what's going on with her mentally, what's going on with her psychotically, what's going on with her kind of physiology, with her biology here. Is she under something. So those are evaluations we're going to want to do. But as a defense team, of course, you're going to want that information. And if they don't have it, it's great because now you can create more reasonable doubt. Sometimes it's better that they didn't do the testing.
Whoa. And you a lawyer saying all this? Uh-oh. Wait a minute. He says it's, he don't think it's why. Why not? What if she was drugged? See, we're looking at all obstacles, and in order to do that, you have to, you know, follow the evidence too, right? So if she's not tested, how do we know if she was going through, you know, she was under the influence or not? How do we know if she wasn't on that K2, that K12, what is it called? On that wet? How do we know she wasn't, you know, she took something and it had, you know, something in it that made her act out of the normal? We got to look at all possibilities. See, me, I just don't know enough. All right. And I'm still going down the rabbit hole. So right now, I just got theories. They're just opinions. All right. The way I'm perceiving things. So he gave me another, you know, theory, another way of perceiving it, because I didn't even think about it like that. What if somebody else did unalive those kids? All right. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. All right. Like, because it's crazy. What if someone else did unalive them kids? Who is she covering for? But my thing is, right, we just got over one way of how I perceived it. Right now, let's go through, you know, let me give you another way of how I see it, right? Another theory, basically, right? Could she be a scorned mother, right? I mentioned it earlier a few times, right? Possibly, could she be consumed by hatred towards the father? All right, y'all heard me mention that a few times earlier if you've been watching it live, right? Maybe. All right, it could be mental health like we just talked about, or could it be, you know, a scorned woman? Right? Maybe. Could she be a devil in disguise? All right, that's what the headlines want you to believe. But here's the deeper truth, in my opinion, right? Scorn doesn't grow in a vacuum. It grows in betrayal, abandonment, isolation, and untrusted trauma. If she felt rejected, unsupported, or emotionally abused, that pain could have twisted into resentment. And in extreme cases, that resentment gets projected onto kids, all right, onto the kids, not because they're the enemy, but because they're the closest thing to the person she blames. But calling her pure evil skips the layers. It skips the mental health breakdown, all right? It skips the systemic neglect. It skips the fact that CPS had contact and did nothing. It skips the social media post that hinted at rage, isolation, and a warped sense of control. This wasn't just hate. It was collapse. And collapse doesn't happen overnight. It builds, it festers, and it gets ignored until it explodes. All right. So yes, she might have had, she might have hated the dad. She might have used her kids as emotional weapons, but the real question is, who let her get that far? Who saw the signs and stayed silent? Who had the power to intervene and didn't? All right. If we're going to call her a devil, we better name the ones that helped her get there. All right. Like, blessings. We got CC in the building. Did this lady unalive her kids? 2 passed, 2 survived. Yep. She unalived her kids. 2 of them survived, 2 passed. Her 13-year-old and her 3-year-old, unfortunately are in heaven. And her 9-year-old, I think her 9-year-old and her 5-year-old or 8-year-old, something like that. I got to go back to the ages. Survived. All right. Like, let's go back to, the motherhood. All right. When pain, turns toxic. Because I want to get to the third theory in a minute, but I want to get this out real quick. All right. Like I was just saying, right? Motherhood isn't always nurturing. Sometimes it's weaponized. Sometimes it's twisted by pain, isolation, and rage into something dangerous. And when that happens, it's not just the mother who's broken. It's the system that lets her rot in silence. All right. We've seen it before. A woman pushed to the edge, holding her kids like shields, like proof, like leverage. Not because she's evil, but because she's drowning and nobody threw her a lifeline. All right. Control isn't care. Just because she fed them, dressed them, posted them online doesn't mean she was okay. Isolation warps reality. All right. It turns love into possession. It turns protection into punishment. She says she didn't need men. Maybe she didn't, but she needed help. She didn't need support. She needed someone to, because she said she didn't need no type of support, but she needed someone to, see past the selfies and hear the silence. Because independence without stability is just a slow collapse. All right. This isn't about blaming mothers. It's about naming the pain. It's about dragging the systems that watched her spiral. It's about calling out the culture that says she's strong while she's falling apart. So let's talk. All right. Let's check in. Let's stop mistaking control for care, because when pain turns toxic, the fallout isn't just emotional, it's fatal. All right. So we're going to go in more a little bit into this video. All right. And I'm over here like, damn, like I never thought about it as, someone else killing, unaliving these kids, right? And her covering for them. And if it was like that, who could have did it? And why did she cover up for them? All right. So, and then I'm gonna give y'all my opinions. And we got CC in the building. My bad, CC. I just had to get that out there real quick, man. Shout out to CC. All right. Listen, man. CC, listen. I be watching her other sets. Chats. I said sets. So like, what the fuck, Ray? Chats. And listen, she be having some dope key points on a lot of topics that being talked about. All right, in different channels, not panels, channels. My bad, guys. But like, damn, this is deep. This story is so deep. What would make a mother snap to the point that she unalives? I mean, she injures her 4 kids by shooting them, right? And 2 get unalived, and 2 are surviving and fighting for their life in a hospital. Crazy part is the father, her father, right? The grandfather of the kids, right? The mother's father said he never saw no signs. Friends, family said they never saw no signs. How? How does these signs get slipped through the system?
It's a really good point. That's a really good point. Okay, so let's talk about this, Dr. Wilson. I want to get your reaction to Romulus's social media presence. Okay, so we dug into her Instagram page, and while some moms, might be sharing photos and videos of their children's milestones or these really special, cherished moments, her page has almost no posts that feature her children. Many of her photos and videos, they showcase a party lifestyle, includes her showing off stacks of cash and luxury purchases. Although, as we know, what's presented online isn't always the truth, no matter who you're talking about. We found this example, by the way, of Romulus's apparent maybe attitude toward her children. It's from a trip to Cancun that they took for spring break earlier this year. And a photo of a drink with the caption, "I had to soon as I got off the flight because these kids ain't worth a damn." Then there's a video, apparently from that same trip, that shows or seems to show Romulus escorting a group of children to an area with a pool. She speaks with them more on the way down a flight of stairs. And the caption on the video reads, "Much needed, smiling emoji with hearts. If F them kids was a person, face palm emoji."
Y'all got to go. Peace. See y'all later.
Peace, Mommy.
Yeah, I'm not.
Have a great time.
What? Yeah, I am gonna have a great fucking time with you guys. Bye. Carly wants to go get y'all bathing suits. Yes. Why? Because you're gonna get in the pool. Look, you're gonna have a good time. Yes. Come on, everybody's inside.
And one of the last videos posted before this tragedy has the caption, "Mama gotta have a life too." Dr. Wilson,
wild.
Is this relevant for the case? Is this something that investigators, prosecutors, perhaps the defense attorneys will look at and use?
I mean, prosecutors might try to use it, right? I mean, they probably will hope that a jury has seen these images already, hope the news picks it up. But I don't think it's directly relevant to the state. I mean, if there's other information that comes out, if there's child abuse allegations, if there's allegations tied to these specific events or pictures where they're kind of like time stamped or time captured, that could be relevant. But these are out of court statements that don't seem to have anything to do with her quality as a mother. I mean, these are things that, you know, I have a lot of friends that are single mothers, and a lot of them, they'll have their entire Instagram child free, right? This is their fantasy life. Not that they don't love their kids, but they have a lot of stress in taking care of these kids on their own. And Instagram is about them and bigging themselves up and being able to look glamorous and just have that kind of single sexy woman moment, right? And the kind of F them kids statement is a thing that's really common, at least in people around my age, right? It's kind of just this notion that you get to be a human being too. But they can be misconstrued, or they could be really deeply held beliefs that, no, I don't give an F about my children at all. I do wish they were dead. I do have resentment toward them. So, I mean, we have to be able to tie these statements to at least a pattern of events that underlie and say that this is her deeply held feeling and aren't just kind of out of court hearsay type of moments.
Right, tie it to this kind of intent to kill. I talked about the fact that
So that's a fact right there, right? And before he gets onto that, right, I want to just put out there, right, before, you know, my thoughts go somewhere else, right? What if she didn't do it alone? Like, if someone else, you know, unalived the kids, the question becomes, why would she cover for them? And the answer might be buried in fear, trauma, loyalty, or manipulation, all right? Like, mental health doesn't disappear, all right? It complicates. Even if she didn't pull the trigger, her mental state could still be fractured. Right? She might be protecting someone she's trauma bonded to. She might be too unstable to process what happened. She might believe she's responsible even if she's not. All right? Mental illness doesn't always look like chaos. Sometimes it looks like misplaced loyalty. Sometimes it looks like silence. What about fear of retaliation? If someone else did it, partner, ex, friend, stranger, she might be terrified, afraid to speak, afraid she'll be blamed anyway, afraid of what happened if she tells the truth. All right, covering for someone isn't always about guilt, it's about survival. Control, shame, and image. She might be protecting her own narrative. Maybe she feels responsible for letting that person near her kids. Maybe she's ashamed. Maybe she thinks admitting the truth makes her look weak. Hold on one second, guys. Give me 1 second.
Romulus's posts tended to feature these expensive items like purses, sunglasses, cash. The search warrants that were filed by Montgomery County deputies, they kind of give us insight into how she may have come by that cash. So the warrants have a black and white photo of a brick home on Spear Valley Lane in Porter, Texas.
So I guess they dug a little bit into her history. Hold on 1 second, guys. I had to attend my daughter real quick.
Intent to kill.
I hate when it does that. All right. Like me saying what I just said, right? In a world that already paints struggling mothers as monsters, she might choose silence over security. But why? What this doesn't erase is this theory doesn't erase mental health. It doesn't erase systemic failure. It doesn't erase the fact that CPS had contact. Just adds another layer, the possibility of manipulation, fear, and silence. That's what it does. All right, because hate doesn't just happen. All right, it's fed by betrayal, fed by abandonment, fed by systems that watch pain grow and call it strength. You want to know how someone gets to, the point of no return. Start with the, silence they were forced to survive. Scorn doesn't mean evil, but ignored scorn, that turns deadly when rage festers in isolation. All right, when trauma gets no outlet, when every cry for help is met with a shrug, that means the damage multiplies. All right, that's when the fallout hits children, families, and communities. She didn't just break. She was broken by neglect, by pressure, by the myth that motherhood fixes everything. She was unrevealing in plain sight, and the world kept scrolling. But what if she didn't do it? What if someone else pulled the trigger and she's just the one left holding the guilt? Mental illness doesn't erase possibility, it adds layers. All right, layers of fears, layers of silence, layers of loyalty to the wrong people. Covering for the killer doesn't mean she's guilty. It means she's trapped. Maybe by fear, maybe by shame, maybe by a system that taught her to protect others before herself. All right, This isn't just about one mother. It's about every ignored warning, every dismissed breakdown, every child caught in the crossfire of untreated trauma. We don't need more headlines. We need accountability. We need support. We need to stop mistaking survival for stability. So let's talk. Let's drag every layer. Let's stop waiting for tragedy to trend before we care. Because if we don't force the truth now, we'll be reading another obituary tomorrow. I don't know when people gonna wake up, but hey.
Talked about the fact that Romulus's posts tended to feature these expensive items like purses, sunglasses, cash. The search warrants that were filed by Montgomery County deputies, they kind of give us insight into how she may have come by that cash. So the warrants have a black and white photo of a brick home on Spear Valley Lane in Porter, Texas. And in addition to requesting photos and videos of the inside and outside of the home to be put into evidence, the warrants, they list items that deputies wanted to get their hands on inside. That includes all electronics that can store data like DVR systems, cell phones, tablets, computers, SIM cards, hard drives, any equipment that can be used to print, copy, scan, produce, alter any paper item, any and all items containing identifying information for any purpose. And we'll get to why in just a second. But Dr. Wilson, in situations like this, where a person is accused of such horrific crimes, what are the limits on what investigators can seek with warrants? And what do you think might be going on here?
Well, yeah, I will tell you what, when I look at a murder case, I'm generally not thinking I'm going to find a mastermind criminal or fraud, right? So these are completely, generally different types of people that commit these two different crimes, unless a person that does get murdered is also involved in this kind of fraudulent scammer activity. But when you're looking to create a search warrant, you're looking to find evidence that is tied to the crime that you believe has happened, right? Couple different types of warrants you can get. You can get a warrant because you believe that a crime is afoot. You can get a warrant because you believe a crime has already happened and that kind of evidence itself is going to be disappeared, harmed, it might perish because it could be something that's biodegradable. We don't know, right? But you have to list in that warrant the things you're hoping to find with particularity. So it tells me that when they have these lists of items that they're looking for, they've gotten some information or an inkling about these things somewhere else. Because what does that have to do with shooting 4 children? That is a strange, attenuated connection. So that tells me that officers already had an inkling that some other things were going on. So I'm wondering, what did she say in the interview? You know, what was found in the car, in her purse, on her person, on her phone, perhaps, if she was not represented by counsel and silly enough to give her phone to the police. Where did this inkling come from for the police? Because it seems
real shit. He ain't lying. Like, I mean, I see so many people, talking about it, but nobody's asking the real questions. Let's talk about it. Let's ask the real questions. All right. Listen, I question everything until I get an answer that I'm like, oh, now that makes sense. Right now is so many theories popping up in our heads because of what we're seeing, what we're hearing. All right. We haven't even really heard her speak yet. So this is why I said I'm not going hard on her, because we don't know what's really going on yet. All right, and they've been doing this a lot with a lot of these cases. That's why I'm still stuck on the D4VD. Like that's the case over there. I'm sitting here like, what is going on with this shit? Like the theory changes so much. You see where I'm coming from now? They're saying that somebody else had to do with the unalived, and they're saying that that he might not be guilty. But they was in a relationship. Even if he didn't unalive her, he was still a predator. But why did she end up in his car? Is weird. This shit is crazy. Now we got this. Like, it's a lot missing. And I feel as though that the media does this to have us, debating and arguing amongst each other, fighting, distracting us from what I don't know. But I'm not debating or arguing, man. I'm putting out there what I think it is. You see where I'm coming from? And so far, this is, in my head, is either mental health or hate.
To me very clearly that this woman, aside of allegedly murdering her children, allegedly she's really a smart criminal businesswoman. If she's able to pull all this off, get all this information, have such money, I imagine what she could have done if she would have did these things the right way, got an MBA, went to school, started her own business, and be able to really provide for her kids. So I'm wondering, what is behind this? How'd she get into it?
Let's expand upon that a little bit, because we should note that the search warrants, they also indicate that there was a dog that was, quote, abandoned at the residence that's now under the care of animal control.
So they've been to her residence. All right. So let's break this down. Mental health breakdown. Let's go first. All right. Mental health breakdown. And y'all heard me talk about it. All right. Listen, Romulus appeared paranoid and incoherent. All right, during questioning. She repeatedly looked towards the door and made disconnected remarks like I'm ready to work, which investigators said made no sense. All right. She told the deputies, all right, she told deputies she didn't call 911 when she did. All right. She called the devil. That's not just erotic, it's deeply disturbing. She said, instead of them doing it to me, I'm going to do it to them, and later clarified, kill them all. These statements suggested a warped perception of threat and retaliation, right? But also, like, it also shows psychosis, psychotic behavior, like, could she be a schizophrenic? Right? That's why I said mental health breakdown. All right. Now, signs of emotional scorn. She repeatedly made comments that her children were with the devil and did to her, adding, because you can't, take me without me taking you. That's not just mental instability. All right. It hints at resentment, control, and emotional detachment. Her social media history reportedly includes posts bashing men and claiming she didn't need them, which could point to underlying, anger or unresolved trauma related to relationships. CPS confirmed prior contact with Romulus, but no active case at the time. That means red flags were present, but no sustained intervention happened. All right, what this means, we're looking at a case where mental health collapsed and emotional scorn may have collided, which could be two things. Both things could be true. All right, she may have felt betrayed, unsupported, and isolated. And in that spiral, her perception of reality fractured when when this was driven by untreated trauma, hatred towards the fathers, or pure psychosis. The system failed to intervene before it turned fatal. All right, like, let's see.
These warrants also reveal that deputies were concerned about a person that could be in this home as well, because the warrants state at the time of unit's arrival at the Spear Valley Lane location, the oldest child of Romulus, a 17-year-old, was unaccounted for, as this child was not located in the vehicle with the four other
she had a fourth child?
Now, eventually, deputies, they breached the door of this home. They wanted to look inside, figure out if this 17-year-old was inside, and if so, was this person okay? No one was found. I want to talk about some of the items that were found inside that house. So the paper.
Hold up. In no reports do they say she had a fifth child. What is going on? Oh, we're gonna do a part 2 tonight. But listen, my daughter don't have school, so I could definitely pop up tonight. What in the world is going on?
Paperwork says that during an initial search, investigators found evidence of a large-scale identity fraud scheme. Okay, so this is what we were talking about. Quote, I observed there to be a large amount of social security cards and other identification documents containing identifying information of numerous individuals. This includes social security cards, U.S. treasuring checks addressed to this location with different names contained on the checks. The counterfeit identification documents were in various stages of manufacture, bearing different names, states, and photographs. These items are believed to be connected to criminal activity, but outside the scope of the initial warrant for the residence. Some identification cards had photographs of Oninda Romulus with names of different individuals. These items were located in an office inside the home that also contained multiple shipping labels, phones, computers, laptops, printers, and other devices. So in total, investigators gathered up a staggering amount of potential evidence. Fox 26 Houston reports that court documents list out items which include 31 social security cards, 33 ID cards, 15 credit cards, 15 packages of blank checks. Dr. Wilson, going back to you, if all of this is true, you mentioned it before about
Damn, for somebody with mental health, issues, she was committing a lot of fraud. She was out here with different, could she have different personalities? I don't know. How the hell did all these red flags get slipped by? Like, how no one noticed this? How nobody noticed this? Was this hate or, breakdown? hate or breakdown when motive isn't simple, the truth gets blurry. All right. She wasn't just angry, she was unraveling. All right. And when someone unravels like in silence, the damage doesn't stay inside. All right. It spills into everything around them. We've been talking about that a lot lately. All right. Bleeding all over people. Wow. This is crazy. Like, we want clean answers. We want to stay, we want to say she snapped or she was evil, but real life doesn't come with, clean lines. Sometimes rage is rooted in trauma. Sometimes control, is a symptom of collapse. Sometimes the person we call a monster was begging for help in ways nobody understood. Mental health, how can I say, isn't an excuse, but it explains the silence. All right, it explains the paranoia. It explains the warped logic that turns protection into punishment. It explains why someone might say, I called the devil and believe it. All right. So before we label her, we need to ask who saw her unraveling and did nothing, who had contact and walked away, who ignored the signs because she looked strong on social media. This isn't just about one mother, it's about every person who's drowning in pain. All right. In plain sight. It's about the systems that wait for tragedy before they act. It's about the silence that kills. All right. So let's stop pretending the motive is simple and let's start listening before it's too late.
About how they might have got to it. Is this now going to be a separate case? Are they going to separate the killings versus potential financial fraud?
Oh, wow.
There will probably be the same case, just different charges, right?
I don't
And
know.
as you know, when you have a warrant, you're supposed to list the specific things that you're looking for. And I think the word we use in criminal law, I haven't taught this part in a minute, but it's with particularity, right? You can't just go on a fishing expedition. But the rule also is, if you go into a home and you see evidence of another crime, it doesn't have to be a home office, wherever the warrant is, and you see evidence of another crime that's in what we call plain view, it's fair game, right? And so they went into that office, the office within this building or home or what have you, looking for this young man. And they saw all this evidence of another crime. And so that's fair game there. But yes, this is going to be part of the same case. And that's going to be difficult for an attorney because a lot of us specialize. So maybe you specialize in murder cases, but now you have this maybe, I don't know what type of fraud or how many different types of fraud is going on here. I wouldn't feel equipped, right, necessarily to take on the fraud case, but I feel more comfortable with the murder case. And of course, some people are best athletes and just say, hey, reasonable doubt's a reasonable doubt. But these are going to be the same case, probably with an assorted team of attorneys if she can afford it, or hopefully her public defender service down there has a really highly qualified team.
And that's a really good point. And I will tell you, the search warrants, they also indicate that there was a Tesla with a Georgia license plate that was parked in the driveway.
Another Tesla,
when the units got there. And background records show that Romulus previously lived in Georgia. Now, according to investigators, a surveillance camera from across the street apparently showed multiple people coming out of the home just after 2:30 a.m. on Saturday, October 4th, with some of the subjects being, quote, small in stature, consistent with children. They apparently got into a car next to the Tesla, drove away. The warrant requested access to the Tesla's camera system, the storage, in order to gather information about the people who might have left the home that night. The investigator providing details for the warrant noted that it can take several days, maybe even weeks to get.
Y'all said the same shit about D4VD, and now y'all hiding all. I mean, not y'all, but I'm talking about, like the police department and, the DAs and all that. Man, fuck out of here. Like, I don't know what's going on, but they keeping a lot of shit secret from the public, especially when they, which makes you believe certain things. I mean, listen, we know the world is a stage, right? Like, it is up to you to decode what's being put in front of you.
Gather this much electronic evidence. Dr. Wilson, we talk about electronic evidence all the time, how maybe in today's day and age, it can be a lot more difficult for someone to hide criminal activity or to get away with a crime. I mean, a Tesla in and of itself is almost like a computer. It's a very different kind of operating machine. It's a very different kind of how it can store information. I'm curious what we can expect when we talk about electronic evidence.
Well, I mean, Teslas are really particular. I have a Kia EV9, and I love the car because the security features are so great and there's so many cameras. I have a friend who recently, I believe, had their Tesla, someone tried to steal it, and the person was on camera because the Tesla was yet recording, right? So when these things can act as surveillance devices in and of themselves, you have a problem here. But of course, when we're trying to get subpoenas for electronic devices, with the Tesla, it might even be as hard as kind of with a cell phone. So do you need to get the subpoena to the Tesla company? Are there certain encryption ways that you can encrypt your data with your Tesla? How do you actually get into the cars? There's a lot of questions there, and oftentimes these companies don't want to give you the data, even though there might be a murderer or a serial killer or a rapist on the loose, because the way they sell themselves is, look, this is your privacy here, and they're selling the notion of privacy and convenience. So if someone like Tesla, we've seen this with Apple in the past, with the FBI, just hands over the data, just hands over their surveillance without any type of real fight, it cheapens in the eyes of a lot of consumers the experience and the product that they're buying. It feels like you can't even have, the so-called right to privacy in your own home, in your own car, what have you. And of course, we know with the vehicle, you have a reduced right to privacy as well. So I think there are a lot of issues there, not necessarily with just the legal piece of the subpoena and getting that information, but the kind of battle with the company that is looking also at their bottom line, their brand, their reputation.
I'm glad you mentioned that because we talk so much about ChatGPT and now how there's what.
All right, they're about to go into a whole complete another thing over there, man. This story is so sad. Really, really sad. Give me 1 second, guys. Let me just put this back here because I'm gonna, say what I'm gonna say and end this live. Right, I've been on this John 2 hours, 35 minutes. Shout out to the ones that came in. All right, show support. Make sure y'all, subscribe if y'all ain't subscribed. All right, for future lives. Become a member. All right, I'm trying to do the member giveaways. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna see if I do it this weekend. All right, I'm gonna do, but I'm gonna do it, for subscribers only this weekend. For the subscribers, I know who has been here for a minute. All right, so I'm gonna do the little wheel thingy. All right, put the names on it, and for those that show up that day, I'm gonna have them. I'm gonna give them some poetry books. So I appreciate all the support. I'm about to start working on some hoodies. So I'm about to go pick up when I get the hoodies in here and I get the shirts and stuff like that. And I'm gonna do the some lives making hoodies and t-shirts with the R4L logo on it. All right, some might have some poetry on it. So I'm gonna be selling them Jones. So what I'm gonna do is, for the subscribers that have been here for the longest, that helped us Shorty get this far. All right, we're gonna do the I'm gonna probably do this maybe once in a while. All right, and it's for the subscribers that've been here for a while. All right, so we're gonna do some hoodie and t-shirt giveaways on the membership giveaways. All right, we're gonna do hoodies, t-shirts, poetry books, and stuff like that. So make sure y'all subbed up. But for the first giveaway for my subscribers that have been here for a while, I'm gonna make a little wheel. And if y'all are present when I do that live, all right, I will send y'all. Y'all make sure y'all got like a PO box or something if y'all don't want y'all mail out there. Listen, I ain't gonna do shit with y'all address, but I like doing this professionally. For those that don't want to put their address out there, don't want it to be known for whatever reason, make sure you have a PO box or somewhere where this package can go to. So listen, we're gonna do it like that. So shout out to those, all right, to those day one subscribers that have been rocking out with us, Shorty. I really appreciate y'all from the bottom of my heart. Now, with that being said, all right, can someone be both mentally ill and emotionally scorned? Why I say that, all right? Let's do this, all right. Let's layer the motives, all right. Let's layer the motives, all right. Hater breakdown, all right. When motive isn't simple, she didn't just wake up and choose violence, all right. She unraveled. Maybe it was hate, maybe it was trauma, maybe it was both. But when motive isn't simple, the system's response can't be either, right? She wasn't just angry, she was unraveling, right? Anger is loud, but it's damn late. But unraveling is quiet. It hides in routines, right? In selfies and silence. She wasn't just mad. She was falling apart and nobody saw it until it was too late. Mental health. I know it's supposed to, how can I say? Mental health is, not supposed to be an excuse, but now it equals excuse, right? but it also explains the silence. All right, mental health, all right, mental illness doesn't excuse the outcome, but it explains the spiral. All right, the paranoia, the detachment, the silence. If we ignore mental health, all right, we ignore the warning signs that could have saved lives. All right. And what's crazy is she was, unrevealing in plain sight. She said she called the devil. She said, kill them all. But before we can call her evil, let's ask what broke her. Because hate doesn't just happen, it's fed, and silence doesn't just exist. It is ignored. Why I'm saying all this like this? Why am I talking like this? Because what if this was someone that you loved? How could you help them? All right. And I mean, a lot of us have been in that, position. I was trying to help a brother that suffered from mental health. He had schizophrenia. And I don't know if I got there on time. You see where I'm coming from? I think I did. A lot of people say you did, Ray. You've been trying. You see where I'm coming from? But I'm not going to sit here and lie. Sometimes it felt that the effort that, sometimes it feels like the effort that I made, right? But you can't dwell on them losses, right? I just use that as, an experience, right? Turn that pain into motivation, right? And help others. But, I'm not going to sit here and lie and say that, sometimes it doesn't feel like, damn, man, everything I did was in vain. Like, I wanted you to survive. I wanted you to get that help. But the way the system is, I couldn't help you on time. But that's not my fault. All right. There's nobody to blame when it comes in my brother's situation, but the mental health that he had, him not wanting to get the help in the system, not, being there on time. The people that, run these goddamn corporations and institutions that are supposed to give out mental health help. All right. So mental illness doesn't excuse the outcome, but it explains the spiral. All right. The paranoia, the detachment, the silence. All right. If we ignore the mental health layer, we ignore the warning signs that could have saved lives once again. All right. So with that being said, guys, man, listen, that's all the time that I got right now. That's all the time that I got right now, man. I hope all y'all is having a blessed and humble day. Oh, let's check out the poll real quick. I knew I was missing something. I'm on this John looking at all the tabs like, what am I missing? All right. Before we end this live, let's end the poll. Let's see what happened. All right. Where'd my poll go? Oh, here we go. All right. So I asked y'all earlier, should mental health screenings be mandatory for new mothers, right? 64% answered yes, it's survival. 18% answered no, it's invasive, and 18% only if signs, show. So shout out to the 11 votes, all right? I appreciate y'all for, giving y'all, different perspectives and, outputs into this, y'all opinion, all right? Like, listen, I appreciate the comments, especially when we speak into politics, all right? When we talk about politics, when we talk about our communities, right? Because as a leader of my community, it helps me get more ideas, and I'm able to go to, these senators, governors, commissioners, mayors, all of them, all right, and speak my mind and say what I think, all right. So I appreciate those that come on here, all right, have conversations with a shorty and stuff like that. That's why I said when I do the subscribers, all right, I know who's been rocking out with a shorty for the longest. So I appreciate y'all, man. We're gonna do that little subscriber giveaway, all right, on the weekend, and I'm gonna see, like I told y'all, who I send out the poetry books to. So make sure if y'all not subbed up, man, sub up, man. I've been saying for the longest we was going to get back to the way it was, when I had my other channel. All right, it's taking me a minute to get back on my feet, and we get in there. So I appreciate all the support, because if it wasn't for y'all support, I wouldn't be making it this far. All right, this channel is growing a little faster than my other one. This was actually my backup channel. So I appreciate all those that are subbing up, sharing my videos, liking my videos, all right, having conversations with me in the chat, leaving comments on the videos that I upload, all right, because that helps my channel out a lot. So I really appreciate y'all. So with that being said, till next time, all right, this is y'all shorty Rachel, and I hope all of y'all have a blessed and humble day. Continue to have a blessed and humble day.
Yeah, we living in a world where the rules don't apply. They say we gotta follow, but we ready to fly. System got us boxed in, trying to keep us small. but we rise like the phoenix. We ain't scared to brawl. They feeding us lies, but we see through the smoke. We're the voice of the people, we're ready to provoke. They want us to divide, but we're stronger as one. Breaking chains, sticking names, yeah, we getting it done. It's us versus the system, we're breaking the mold. Fist in the air, yeah, we taking control. No more silence, no more fear. Together we rise, let them know we're here. Riders ignite. In the world of division, they showed us how to share. But the weight of our sorrows, they never taught us to bear. We split our joys and laughter, but the pain remained untold. A burden we carry alone, a story left untold. They taught us to split everything, but not the heavy pain. It lingers in the shadows, a darkness we can't explain. We're left with shattered pieces, trying to mend what's lost. They taught us how to split everything, but not the heavy palms. We learned to divide our dreams and multiply our fears. But the ache in our hearts only grew with passing years. They gave us all the answers, except how to heal. The scars that burn so deep means the time can't seal. Yeah, they taught us how to share, but only the good. Smiles and laughter like we understood. But deep down inside, there's a storm we hide. Pain in our hearts, we're just trying to ride. Put on a mask, yeah, we play the part, but nobody sees the cracks in the hearts. We share our dreams, the highs and the lows, but when it comes to hurt, we just close the doors. We share the fun times, deflect the pain, laughing in the sunshine, dancing in the rain. But the shadows linger, they creep and they crawl, breaking us down, but we don't share at all. We got hate in our hearts, but we keep concealed. Taught to share the joy, but wounds, they stay unhealed. They said love was easy to divide, but the heartache never subsides. We tried to split everything into two, but the pain lingers strong and true. Shared our dreams, divided our fears, but the sorrow remained through the years. No matter how we tried to let go, the weight of our suffering continued to grow. Now we're apart trying to heal, but some wounds are too deep to conceal. They said splitting up will set us free, yet the pain lingers in you and me. In a world where rules are set in stone, the system's grip tightens, we're not alone. Bound by chains of injustice greed. Against the odds, we fight to be free. Mighty forces try to keep us down, but our spirits rise, refusing to drown. Defying norms, breaking through the mold. In this battle of wills, our story is told. As the clash continues day by day, we stand united, come what may. For in this world where the rules don't apply, our strength and unity will never die. They tried to silence our dreams, but we're loud and clear. With every step forward, conquering fear. They can't hold us back. We're the fire and the flame in this battle for freedom. We're all in the game. They say it's just a game, but we're playing for keeps. With the strength of the many, we're shattering their leaps. No more puppets on strings, we're cutting the ties. With our eyes on the prize, we're reaching for the skies. So let's stand together, let's break down the walls. In this fight for our future, we'll answer the calls. From the ashes, we'll rise like a storm. Riders ignite. It's us versus the system, and we're ready to fight. They building walls, but we're digging tunnels. With every step we take, we're shaking the bundles. From the streets to the courts, we're raising our voice. In a world full of noise, we're making the choice. They want to keep us blind, but we see the light. Knowledge is power, and we're ready to fight. From the corners of the city to the halls of the state, where the heartbeat of the struggle can't afford to wait. It's us versus the system, we're breaking the mold. This in the air, yeah, we're taking control. No more silence, no more fear. Together we rise, let them know we're here. Riders ignite. They taught us to split everything, not the heavy pain. It lingers in the shadows, a darkness we can't explain. We're left with shattered pieces, trying to mend what's lost. They taught us how to split everything, but not the heavy falls. Now we stand here broken, searching for some light, hoping for a way out of this never-ending night. But through it all, we find strength in each other's embrace.